This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. Lots to get to today as we get ready for a big, busy weekend for the Winnipeg Jets at home. Seattle Kraken in town tomorrow. 90s night against the Calgary Flames Friday night. And then a Sunday late matinee against the Utah Mammoth, who upended the division-leading Avalanche last night in an extra frame. John Shannon's going to join us coming up at the top of hour number 2 on the show today. The host of 100% Hockey on YouTube. We'll get to his thoughts on the Jets so far through this season on this 5-game winning streak, as well as some of the other topics around the league. Connor was down at practice. He will join us before John comes on. We'll get the latest from the rink today and hopefully hear a little bit from the Winnipeg Jets as well. We'll also talk some Bombers and hear from Jason Hogan, who was certainly feeling a little bit of heat coming out of Friday night's 17-16 win over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Taylor Allen is down at practice today. He'll also join us in hour number 2 of the program. And we'll finish it off with a little bit of NFL talk with our weekly visit from Thomas Tipple of fantasypoints.com. First things first, tonight we have our sights set on Jeff Hamilton. It is another episode or event of the WST Poker Series over at CoolBet. We will be playing at 8 p.m. tonight. Would love to see you join us. It's a $30 entry. There is a $100 bounty on my head, $100 bounty on Remis's head, and because he is the defending champion, has now won twice, there's a $100 bounty on Jeff Hamilton's head as well. And I hope to be the one to receive that $100 and send Hammer packing for the first time so far this year. If you check our social media channels, there's details over at CoolBet. But basically what you need to do is just head over to coolbet.com. You click on the poker, download the CoolBet poker, and go into tournaments, search WST, enter, and join us at 8 p.m. tonight. We've had a lot of fun with these tourneys as they continue to grow. The last one was epic with Hammer getting the win. So I'm not necessarily saying we all need to team up and go after Hammer, but I'm not necessarily saying that's not the case tonight. So the last thing I can handle is Jeff Hamilton showing up on Friday's WST with another victory lap like he did last time. Well-deserved, but we're hopefully going to prevent that tonight. Speaking of Hammer, we do have a new episode of CFL 110 up. We cranked that out this morning on the channel. So when you're finished with the daily edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk and you want more CFL talk, the Western playoff race, the Montreal-Hamilton fight, what is going on with the Bombers, all of that is up on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel as well right now. And, of course, it is brought to you by CoolBet. That's where we'll be doing the poker tourney tonight. Also want to thank the rest of the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Princess Auto, the Winnipeg Jets, the HSC Millionaire Lottery, Rolly's Transfer, St. Patel Dental Center, Canadian Club, Uptown Alley, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating and Electrical, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug. We'll get to a why not question of the day for our friends over at not AutoCorp, but Waverly and McGillivray. Hit them up if you need winter tires right now. And, of course, we'll get to fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. Welcome to everybody in chat. Yes, I see. There's lots of talk about the poker tourney tonight.
Hmm.
There is the bounty. Remo, this is going to be fun tonight. Are you focused and ready to take a run at the hammer after what he's done to us in the last two tourneys?
I think he's taken me out twice. He took me out last time, took me out the time before. And the first time he won, I was in denial. I said, Jeff's just getting lucky. He's on a hot streak. He's getting all the cards, but
There was some truth to that.
and I think there was some truth. And I think he did get a bit lucky when he take, but you do need the cards to go in your favor. But he played well twice. He's obviously a good player, and I haven't been back to the final table since I got second in that first tournament we did with guys in Edmonton. So I'm still looking to return. I had a pretty good showing, and then Jeff, I don't know, I couldn't make anything happen with the garbage cards that I got near the end, but I'm going to try to hit the money this week. I'm looking forward to it, tonight. I'm looking forward to it. No Blue Jays, that's Friday. Bombers don't play till Saturday. Jets don't play till tomorrow. So there are a couple NHL games on this evening, so maybe I'll have those on. A little NBA is back now too. So Wednesday's a good time. No, we don't have Thursday night football. This is a great day.
Yeah, when we're figuring out the schedule of when we were going to do these, we're going to try and do one a month. We basically went to the Jets schedule and realized that Wednesday was a pretty soft day. So we've got these dates scheduled throughout the next couple of months, November and December. And but tonight's the night. Don't wait. Join us 8 p.m. tonight. And again, details on our social channels on how you can join us. Send us a DM if you're having any issues, and hopefully we'll see you this evening. Let's get to the Jets right off the bat. Now, we're going to talk more Jets. Connor's going to join us. He's at practice, or was at practice. I think he's going to join us from the rink a little bit later on. And obviously, we'll dive into a bunch of Jets topics with John Shannon coming up. But the team did have yesterday off after the win in Calgary. Back at practice today. And it seems like the injured players are coming around. Adam Lowry skated with the team in a yellow non-contact jersey. And of course, Cole Perfetti and Dylan Sandberg skated before practice. Shout out to Dave Minuk from Illegal Curve, who's done an awesome job, with some updated videos. We saw Cole Perfetti having some fun yesterday, practicing some celebrations on the ice, and he and Dylan Sandberg whooping it up. So the guys are working their way to come back in, seeing a team that's winning some hockey games without them in, and that's just a great thing for the Winnipeg Jets, especially for so many that were legitimately worried, and I can understand why, of how this team would look with a lot of question marks and three very important players out of the lineup coming into the season. There was someone that was not at practice today, Remo, and that's Morgan Barron. Scott Arniel, and we'll talk about this more with Connor and hopefully hear from the coach a little later on, but Morgan Barron out day to day. You hope that is just somewhat precautionary and he can go tomorrow, but we are going into a period of 3 games in 4 nights, and we certainly know there's been a number of guys that have stepped up that have shown that, they'd love a spot in the lineup. Chiprikov, Parker Ford, Brad Lambert, of course, who got in last game. So if he's unable to go, Morgan Barron, what that does to the fourth line will be interesting, because that has sort of been the one constant. Barron in the middle with Koepke. We've seen some of the young players or Tanner Pearson play on that fourth line. And the fourth line has been such a bright spot of the team so far. So first and foremost, Morgan Barron's a very important player for the Winnipeg Jets. Hope that he's able to be participating in 3 big home games over the next 4 days starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not going to overreact to a guy missing a practice. I mean, we're talking about practice. So we'll wait for a game day skate. I think that's more telling. Guys, miss practices all the time for maintenance or whatever. I don't recall anything that happened in that game that would, mean you saw him get hurt. But as you mentioned, Morgan Barron being very important to the Jets' success on that fourth line. We know the speed that he brings. 5 points in 6 games from your fourth line, a guy who doesn't play power play. Pretty impressive stuff. So you wanted to see them keep it going there, but they've been rotating guys around, and We do have Parker Ford right now lining up center, that fourth line between Koepke and Pearson, as you said. And it is interesting to see Brad Lambert still in there on that third line with Iafallo and Nemestikov. I think we'll have more clarity tomorrow, but interesting to note Morgan Barron, Arniel saying he's day-to-day.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see Brad Lambert again tomorrow night, regardless of the status of Morgan Barron. And, Chibrikov got the first 3 games. Parker Ford got the next couple. And then, Lambert was put into the lineup on Monday in a game that Arniel talked about it afterwards, was essentially played half the game on special teams. And, he's not on the power play, wasn't on the PK. So all of a sudden you end up with 7 minutes and 43 minutes of ice time. And, considering the look that they gave the other 2 players, I would assume that Brad Lambert's going to get another spot. I guess the question is, if Morgan Barron is out, what happens? And I think we already know the answer to that question. I think Parker Ford's the next guy up. I mean, going into the season, we would have thought that it would be David Gustafsson. Obviously, Gustafsson cleared waivers. He's with the Manitoba Moose. And Parker Ford is in that spot. So, if Barron has to miss a game, I think we'll see Ford, Koepke, and Pearson together. And the expectation would be Brad Lambert to get a game in front of the home fans tomorrow night against the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, and we're looking at the Kraken. They're, as we mentioned yesterday, they're entering the end of a long road trip. They lost to the Washington Capitals yesterday, and the Jets well positioned here to add to that 5-game win streak with opponents Seattle and Calgary, who were out of the playoffs last year, here in Winnipeg this week. And you talk about beating teams, below you. The Jets' division rival, the Dallas Stars, not able to do that yesterday. They're on a 3-game losing streak, losing to Columbus. So, I mean, as much as we talk about the Jets' 5-game win streak, and you say, who have they played? They haven't played anyone. Well, you still got to win. And you look at Dallas, who was right there last year, beat them in the playoffs. Well, they didn't win those games. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They have a -3 goal differential and are 3-3. So the Jets are off to a nice start here, 5-1-0, just behind Colorado, who lost in overtime yesterday to Utah. And there's Utah in third at 5-2, who will be here on Sunday. Utah, the Mammoth. Now, first look at the newly named Mammoth on Sunday.
Yeah, Dallas is an interesting team and just sort of weird. I mean, we all remember what they did to the Jets on game number 1 of the season, coming in and getting that 5-4 win. They then went to Denver and beat the Avalanche 5-4, and then won their home opener against the Minnesota Wild. So you run the table, 3 big wins against 3 top teams in the Central. Well, they followed that up by getting thumped by the Canucks at home. They lost 3-1 in St. Louis and then returned home last night to lose to the Blue Jackets 5-1. And what I would imagine, at least by the scoreboard, probably their most disappointing game of the year. And then at the same time yesterday, as you just mentioned, you had the Avalanche losing an OT to the Mammoth. So when you look at the Central Division, and by the way, the St. Louis Blues lost an OT as well to the Kings. Although OT, I mean, you get that loser point. But the Central Division standings see the Jets 2 points back of the Avalanche, but with a game in hand. So if they're able to win tomorrow night, I'm not sure where those other teams are playing, they could presumably tie the Avs, and I guess would technically be ahead because they would be 6-1, 6 wins. But right now they're in a good spot. And again, taking advantage of this schedule right now against some of the non-playoff teams and doing it without some important players. You just want to keep this win streak going. And obviously we'll talk about this a little bit more, but with the 3 games in 4 nights, I know there was already some love for Eric Comrie in the chat, just with the way he's played this year and last year. I would expect that 90s night game, Friday night, will likely be the Comrie start. Hellebuck tomorrow, and then Hellebuck for what's shaping up to be a pretty big one, Remo, on Sunday afternoon against those Utah Mammoth, as you mentioned.
Yeah, Utah again, they're the Mammoth. They got the new practice facility. They're settled in this year. Got a young team. Big overtime win yesterday against Colorado with Dylan Guenther. Really nice play off a pass from Clayton Keller. So they've got some good young talent there. Cooley, the Sergachev trade a couple years ago, paying dividends. I said I did not like the Arizona Coyotes, but I'm a big Mammoth guy. So that should be a fun one on Sunday.
I'd like to get out to Utah. That'd be a fun place to do a little WST roadie
I'd go.
for a game and do a couple shows. That would be a lot of fun. It seems like the vibes there is good, and obviously with the team being a little bit better, helping their team in that second round. Speaking of getting better, that's what the Kraken are looking to do. They of course had that huge win early on in their existence against the Avalanche in the playoffs. They've sort of fallen off the last couple seasons. But not a bad start. They're finishing up an epic road trip that has taken them all around North America. Last night, they were in, where the heck were they in?
Washington.
Last night? Oh, yeah, in D.C., as you mentioned, and did not go well for them, a 4-1 loss. So see if the Jets can get on some tired legs and get that win and then get ready for the Calgary Flames. Calgary is in action tonight against the Montreal Canadiens before coming to Winnipeg for Friday night's game. And Calgary's going to get Winnipeg on the second end of a back-to-back. Connor's going to join us in about 15 minutes or so. We'll get the latest from practice. We did do CFL 110 this morning, as I mentioned right off the top of the show. Check out the entire program over on YouTube or on the podcast. Leave a comment if you can. A lot of talk today, especially with Hammer, and we'll get into this a little bit more on Friday heading into the weekend, but just the state of the Winnipeg Blue Bomber offense, Remis. And, as we outlined on the show, there's a very good chance, a high probability, as the Ticats are 13.5-point favorites to beat Ottawa on Friday night, that the game on Saturday will be a nothing burger for the Montreal Alouettes. All Hamilton needs to do is win, and the East is set at Hamilton 1 and Montreal 2. It is also highly likely that the Bombers will be the crossover team. Unless the Calgary Stampeders win, the Bombers win, and BC loses. That will be the situation. So I do wonder, with all the talk about the Bomber offense and the play calling, there is an argument that, hey, they need to go out and get right and get things going against Montreal. The other argument is that, you pretty much know what you have. Don't take risks. Do not put Zach Caleros or Brady Oliveira or any of the other important players that you're going to be counting on in the playoffs at risk. And it could just be a battle of the backups. I guess we'll see how Winnipeg handles things over the next couple days. We have seen the top players actually participating, and it would make sense to practice. But I don't know whether Jason Hogan and that Bomber offense is going to get a chance to try and reinvent themselves in this final week of the regular season. To me, Reem, I would suggest making sure you have the best possible chance of winning the following week with those players, and maybe keep them a little, in bubble wrap, if you will, if in fact the game doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting week in the CFL. The way the schedule works out is kind of nice, how you have the Hamilton and Ottawa game on the Friday, and Hamilton needs to win to get the division. So it will kind of dictate how that Montreal-Winnipeg game will go on Saturday. And same thing with Calgary and Edmonton, and BC needing to see the result of that to influence how they play. Imagine Saskatchewan, who I haven't looked at what they're doing, but considering they played minimal starters last week, would be similar on Saturday.
I think Saskatchewan actually is going to play their guys, at least for a half. Well, think about this. They didn't play last week. You sit them out this week, then they have another bye. You're talking about going into a game at home where if you win, you make the Grey Cup, and you'll have sat your star players for a month, basically 3 weeks. That's tough. So I would bet it won't be the whole game, but I think Trevor Harris is going to get some reps. I think, anyone that's injured obviously will be rested, but for the most part, I think Saskatchewan will do that. Hey, we've seen before in Winnipeg, going back to 2001, what can happen when you rest players for a couple of weeks before a bye week when you've got it locked down. So that's the situation around the league. Let's hear. Jason Hogan spoke to the media yesterday. We'll get to that in just a minute. But we do have some announcements. The CFL did throw out the team nominees for the awards today. No surprise that Trey Vavel is both the Rookie of the Year nominee and the Special Teams Player of the Year nominee. He's got a chance to win those both and will be in the mix. Brady Oliveira, Most Outstanding Canadian, Most Outstanding Player. Evan Holm, Most Outstanding Defensive Player. And good old Stanley Bryant getting the O-Lineman Award for the Winnipeg Jets. But everyone was interested to hear what Jason Hogan had to say after a very underwhelming offensive performance last week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Here's what Jason Hogan had to say about the 17-16 win over Sask.
I thought we did some good things, a couple of good long drives, and then we just had some inconsistencies at times.
What led to those inconsistencies, do you think?
A couple of mistakes here and there by different people. Those are the inconsistencies we gotta fight through and get better at.
Is it a concern having those things right now, heading into the last game of the year when obviously you want to be peaking?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to peak at this time of year, but I think every team has their share of mistakes. We just gotta stop making them when they count, or middle of the game when we don't need them, and just keep building off of the first half, which was a good start.
There's been a lot of mistakes though in these last two games, especially on offense. Again, just why do you think that is, and how do you guys, start playing your best when the games really matter, obviously?
Yeah, I think moving guys around doesn't help. Again, it's a question of taking reps, taking the right reps. At one point somebody goes down, you're hopping in at a different spot. You didn't rep all week, so those are to be expected. Well, not to be expected. You shouldn't expect them, but they're a little more understandable at times. Maybe it's an inch here, an inch there, foot here. So those sort of things will happen anywhere.
All right, so there's Jason Hogan just sort of saying was just some mistakes out there. I would probably counter that it was a little bit of both. At some point, as we talked about yesterday, and we'll get to coming up, you'd like to get your MOP candidate the ball a little bit more as you go 3 and out over and over and over again. And it certainly seemed like there was a lot of frustration within the Bomber sideline and locker room after the game. Hogan was asked if he felt that frustration after the win.
Yeah, you talk about just in general or offensively mostly. Yeah, I think we put a lot of time in. Coaches, we put a lot of time in. The players put as much time as we do in, and that's not to count the time that once they leave the building, they're going home, or after a game, they're on first one's on the flight, looking at it on an iPad or on the phone. So it's a little disappointing when you put all that time in, it doesn't go your way.
Why does it look so different in the last couple of weeks compared to the Hamilton game, which was, 514 yards net offense?
Well, mistakes. We didn't make mistakes that game. We were as clean as a whistle. And then when you make mistakes, it doesn't go your way.
All right. The chat, we're going to have to get right to fan feedback for fans first in just a second coming out of this. Connor, as I said, is going to join us in 5 or 10. He talked about the frustration. He was then asked, well, how do you handle the frustration amongst your offense?
I think it's case by case, but ultimately it's just, get them to tune it down, if you will, and get back to where we're at and center everything and get back to focusing up on the next drive and forget about what happened on the last one. Coach it up. We'll give them the information on the sideline and then keep going.
Brady talked yesterday about the whole offensive unit watching the film together and the benefits of that. Did you see the benefits of that too, as a group instead of by position groups?
Yeah, I think anytime they watch it together, you'll get some benefit out of it. I think they'll hold each other accountable, and we, depending on how the week goes and how short the upcoming week is, or the scenario, sometimes it'll happen where we'll let them watch them by themselves or as a group, or sometimes they'll be with us. Other than that, I thought they handled it pretty well. It was good to see them, gel together. That's what you want to see this time of year, right?
All right, so there's Jason Hogan. Actually, here's one more, and there was just a lot of people wondering what was Strevler going in on a 2nd and 4 just inside the 5 on Friday. Here's what he had to say on that decision.
Yeah, it was just a different look. We thought we can, have a zone read option and handle it with Strev, and we did that previous weeks, and it worked. And sometimes the defense does a good job of shutting it down, and that's what they did there.
All right, people are already going, but let's get to it. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? What did you think about what the Bomber OC, Jason Hogan, had to say? We'll get to fan feedback in just a minute. I know it is already locked and loaded. Listen, before we do that, big welcome aboard and thanks to our friends at Uptown Alley, Winnipeg and Manitoba's Ultimate Entertainment Supercenter over at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. If you haven't been to the new facility on St. Matthews, it really is something. 5-pin bowling lanes, 10-pin bowling lanes, an incredible gaming area with some great prizes to be won, and unbelievable food and beverage options as well. Amazing for groups, corporate groups, birthday parties, you name it. They've got you covered at Uptown Alley. It really is the best place to get together. If you've got kids for a birthday party, they nailed it. Teens, absolutely. Adults too. And corporate and group events, which I've been a part of there before. So much fun and really easy steps to arrange the event. Pick your activities, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and the event team will help put together a schedule and arrange all the details, and you just sit back and enjoy the party. Don't forget the Bowl and Play special, which is a daily deal right now after 9 p.m. Looking for something to do after 9? Head on down to Uptown. 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card for just $20.49 per person for 5-pin and $22.49 for 10-pin bowling. UptownAlley.ca 488-0000. Pop on down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Seattle Kraken moving on into Winnipeg tomorrow, but it's a short stay. If you are making a long-term move to a new home, you and your family should holler at our friends and great partners at Roley's Transfer to help you with that move. Roley's Transfer, proudly family-owned and operated in Winnipeg for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving. Head on over to their website at roleys.com and hit on request an estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when and where you're moving to, what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Roley's will turn around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they become famous for, now into their 7th decade of helping Manitobans on the move. For all your moving needs, make it Roley's. Hit them up today at roleys.com and request an estimate and get locked in for that white glove treatment. Of course, our friends at St. Vital Dental Center are all smiles. If you have to take care of that smile, or it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, lean on Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center and their beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's. State-of-the-art equipment, amazing team, and of course, convenient free parking right behind the building. St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Manitobans and can handle clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. You can find out more online at stviteldental.ca. Book an appointment there as well. When you pop by, say what's up to Dr. Terry and his team from the gang at Winnipeg Sports Talk. And just before we bring Connor in and get to fan feedback, I do want to thank our friends at Canadian Club who are gearing up for a big final game of the regular season at Princess Auto Stadium. And, of course, the Grey Cup coming to the Peg. Canadian Club, of course, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the original Canadian whiskey since 1858. And right now, while supplies last, your local Manitoba Liquor Marts, the special limited edition Blue Bomber label Canadian Club bottle available now. Perfect for the push to the playoffs, Grey Cup entertaining, and of course the holidays around the corner, and will make a great gift for the whiskey lover / bomber fan in your circle. Pick it up today at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. Check it out for the Canadian Club display. All right, listen, before we bring Connor in, we got to get to some fan feedback because I'm not sure we've just played clips that have set the chat on fire like just happened. So let's do it. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. At Fans First, what you see is what you pay and not a cent more. and it's the best spot to get rid of extra tickets for both Jets and Bomber games with quick and easy payment promptly done electronically into your account the very next day. All right. This is all on the Jason Hogan spot yesterday. Just LMFAO from Jets Pope. Key finally lost the Pit Vipers. That's an improvement. I didn't mind the Brett the Hitman Hart shades. That was pretty good. Winnipeg Chaster's not pleased with the play calling. Dude is clueless. Play calling mistakes. Keith Liz, how about some ownership on his failures? Every team has their share of mistakes. Don't bring other teams into this. And it just goes and goes. Play calling and execution mistakes. A lot of people took basically what we get from BA. It's not me, it's them. Lack of responsibility again. I will say this. Even if you don't feel that way, it's sort of the coach's role, I think, to take responsibility when things don't go. Back the players up a little bit. But it certainly came across as... we had the game plan. Everything should have worked, and the guys just didn't execute, and there were too many mistakes. And that seemingly didn't go over really well with the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel. Just leave it at that. Continue on with your thoughts. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First. By fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. John Shannon is coming up at the top of the hour. Let's bring in Connor Rabchak in from the Hockey for All Center, where the Jets went at it today. How are you?
Doing good. I love these practices out here. You know that, Huss. I live nice and close, so it's nice and close to me. The Jets, after a day off yesterday, got back to the skate here before a very, honestly, Huss, one of the busiest weekends of my life coming up. 3 Jets home games, a Bomber game. Now we have 2 Blue Jays games as well. I don't know, this weekend is going to fly by because there's just too much going on.
Get a good nap in. If you get bumped out of the poker early, you can just go to bed right away. Yeah. Get a couple of extra hours. Hey, before we get to the Jets, what'd you think of what we just heard from Jason Hogan? And just thoughts on the Bombers coming out of that game on Friday night, knowing that they're going to play Montreal this week. They're probably going to be in Montreal the next week, and the decisions they have to make. Never mind, I don't know whether you're fixing the offense. I mean, at a certain point, to me, it's preparing for that week in advance. But as he said, there didn't seem to be a lot of accountability on the OC's part from what we just heard.
Yeah, he may have lost the Pit Vipers, but his ability to prattle, I don't think, has wavered one bit. It's I don't know, man. The offense, Schnitzy and I talked about it. They lit up Hamilton, the top team in the East. And I know Hamilton has some past defense issues, but that was the game where all 3 phases really clicked for the Blue Bombers. And you thought that maybe they were turning a corner. And then one thing happens. Nick Dembski's out. They keep turning the ball over. The Edmonton game was really brutal for Zach Collaros. And then this past game, the 2nd and 4 where Chris Streveler came in, that was honestly the decision I criticized the most on this week's WST Bombers report was, okay, if the plan is if you didn't pick up a yard here and you're kicking an 11-yard field goal, which is what ended up happening, why is your quarterback coming off the field? The end zones are deep. They still are 20 yards here in the CFL. They haven't changed that yet. The threat of pass completely goes away if you bring Chris Streveler in. So I really disagree with that decision in the moment. And hey, the Bombers won the game and we can continue to execute. But we've seen these players, Zach Collaros, Brady O'Hara, Nick Dembski, Ontario Wilson, have great games before. And we've seen them, show up big in big moments. So I don't think it's really players as much as Zach Collaros could be a lot of quarterback. But yeah, a lot of things going on here for the Bombers.
Yeah, of course, if you want more on the Bombers, join us just after the show. Head on over to CFL 110. Hammer had lots to say today, and we'll get all that done up. We're hoping to get a little bit of Jets audio coming up in the back, but of course, you were there today. Fill us in on who was out there and who wasn't out there. We just mentioned the lack of Morgan Barron today, but a very prominent member joining the group in a yellow non-contact jersey.
Yes, Adam Lowry. He did take a morning skate with the Winnipeg Jets a few games ago. That was before the Nashville game in a yellow non-contact. But this was his first practice with the Jets in a yellow non-contact. And I got to say, Huss, he's moving very well. And I even said it when he was, in solitary confinement, as he put it, that he was skating really well. And when coming, he's 6'5", is a very big player coming off of a hip surgery. You're always concerned about mobility. With the practices here today, Adam Lowry seems to be moving very, very well and playing that fourth pairing left side defenseman that is kind of reserved for extra skaters. But not only, Adam Lowry joined the skate today, Morgan Barron did not skate. Scott O'Neill only provided a timeline for his return, and that's day to day. He didn't say upper body, lower body, when the injury happened, any of those things. So an undisclosed day to day for Morgan Barron. And Brad Lambert, he played last game against Calgary, albeit only 7.5 minutes, but he seems to be on track to stay in the lineup on the Winnipeg Jets third line, alongside Vlad Nemestikov and Alex Iafallo. Arniel talked about how many special teams penalties were in that game and how that really affected his ability to get his minutes up for Brad Lambert. So it looks like Lambert's going to stay in the lineup here, at least for this game Thursday night against Seattle, as Adam Lowry nears a return. And we'll wait and see if Morgan Barron plays tomorrow as well.
Connor, I have to admit, I love the way the Jets have sort of handled these young players early on. I mean, listen, they're throwing their roster out. They're trying to win hockey games right now. And they're doing it, without some key players. But the fact that Perfetti is out, in addition to Lowry, gives the team an opportunity to get a few looks at some players that, by their account, deserve to be on the roster at the beginning of the year. Chibrikov got the first 3 games, which, I think is a feather in his hat that he was the first one to get the opportunity. It went fine for him through the first couple games. I have to admit, I was really impressed with Parker Ford, how noticeable he was, how much he was around the puck, his impact. But you did want to get all 3 of those players into games. And to your point, the game, just the way that it went in Calgary, was so heavy on special teams, very difficult for Brad Lambert to get in any sort of groove. And, I think he'll appreciate the opportunity for another game in the lineup. And again, every one of these chances, whether you're Chibrikov, you're Lambert, or whether you're Ford, crucial right now, because I think it's safe to say that when Adam Lowry's back and when Cole Perfetti's back, if this team is healthy, the opportunity for significant NHL minutes diminishes greatly.
Absolutely. And I also want to give credit to the Jets and their coaching staff and Scott O'Neill on bringing these players in different roles. They're not just plugging and playing them next to Jonathan Toews. Like Parker Ford came in and played on the 4th line, which is more suitable to his style of being a grinder and being a good forechecker. Nikita Chibrikov played on the 2nd line and also moved down a little bit. Brad Lambert's coming in playing with Vlad Nemestikov, who can play with skilled players, played with Ehlers and Perfetti for a good chunk of last season. So I like that the spots that the Jets coaching staff are putting these players in. And for Brad Lambert, I thought even in 7.5 minutes where, there's really no flow, no rhythm, you're not playing special teams, I thought he showed well. He generated a few chances, used his speed well, and Scott O'Neill said that today as well. And that's why I think Brad Lambert's going to stay in the lineup, at least for this next game. We'll see how that goes. Maybe they switch to Parker Ford at some point over the weekend with 3 games and 4 nights. But I like the spots that the Jets are putting these young players in. And even when Lowry and Perfetti come back, yes, the chance diminishes greatly, but Jets probably aren't going to stay healthy for the entire season. It's just a fact. And there's going to be a time where these players are counted on to come back from the Moose if they end up getting sent down. And they're also fighting to be that first call up and show well right now, so that in January, Scott O'Neill can point back and say, okay, when we gave all 3 of those guys chances, this guy was the best, and he's the one that's going to come up. So I like the spots they're putting them in, and I thought all 3 players have had their moments and been playing well in their roles.
Yeah, and I mean, including Lambert. I mean, listen, obviously we were kind of distracted by the Blue Jays for the first couple periods, but still watching, and there were a couple times where they had some nice puck possession, got a shot on goal, kind of trying to get into those areas where goals are scored. So it wasn't like he was invisible when he was out there. He just wasn't out there very much because of the circumstances of the game. So it'd be a good opportunity for him, presumably, getting into the lineup tomorrow. Connor, one other thing that we didn't really get to yesterday, more talking, about Mark Scheifele and, the franchise record of points. There was another one recently, and that, of course, is Josh Morrissey, who passed Dustin Byfuglien on the defense scoring list. And I know Morrissey spoke today. Much like so many things Josh has done, a quiet level of excellence and a very nice nod to a guy that, will likely be, one of the great Jets of this entire generation, and certainly still one of the most important players on this team.
Yeah, and that moment came at such a bad time for Josh because Springer hits the homer, Taves scores his first goal, the Jets go up 2-1, and Morrissey's assist was like a phantom secondary assist on Scheifele's goal. So I was like, oh, I didn't even know that happened. But yeah, he passes Dustin Byfuglien, who mentored him as a young player, and he spoke to that. The first 40, 50 games of Morrissey's career were spent alongside Dustin Byfuglien. Give me the kid, Dustin Byfuglien said. And he came in and played alongside Buff, and Buff mentored him, and he spoke to that, and he talked about how much admiration and respect he has for Dustin Byfuglien, and he said he didn't think he'd ever pass him in anything, but franchise record for assists by a defenseman is what Josh Morrissey has passed him in. I didn't get a chance to ask Josh Morrissey if he was planning on passing Dustin Byfuglien in hits and fights and penalty minutes, but I'm sure that's not on his list. He's more looking at the goals, assists, and points for passing Dustin Byfuglien. But yeah, Josh Morrissey, the trajectory of his career, starting with Dustin Byfuglien, then kind of being a middle pairing guy, then being the guy in like the COVID years, and now, but kind of drowning in that sense, but then now being the guy and being, the superstar defenseman that we know him as. Pretty incredible career trajectory for number 44.
Yeah, no doubt. And such a long-term and popular player here in Winnipeg. And I have a feeling there's some more milestones in the future for Josh Morrissey with the Winnipeg Jets. Thoughts on the Kraken tomorrow night? And listen, just this homestand overall for the Jets, because, with the Olympic break, they don't have a ton of back-to-backs. A lot of teams do. But when you get them, they come in bunches, boom, back-to-back, right back at it against Utah. Again, none of these teams in the playoffs last year, but both Seattle and Utah, pretty nice starts. Can't say the same thing about the Calgary Flames that we saw on Monday.
Yeah, Huss, tomorrow it's game 7 of the regular season for the Winnipeg Jets, and they're taking on Seattle. So I don't know how Seattle teams fare in game 7 as of recently. I know Remo's probably mad at me for that, but had to slide that in there. No, but yeah, Seattle, like they're banking on Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, these young centers really taking a big leap. They have the goaltending in Joey Decord, and they thought Philip Grubauer was their guy, at least at the start of their franchise, but it really ended up being Joey Decord. They have some studs on their defense, Vince Dunn, Brandon Montour. They have some great players, and they're a talented team, and they're kind of, they didn't score enough goals last year, and they tried to add to that a little bit by bringing in Mason Marchment, who brings some toughness, maybe some team identity, and some goal scoring. They've had a good start to the year. Calgary, we just saw them. They're going to be a very desperate group, maybe even more desperate. I know they play tonight against the Montreal Canadiens in an all-Canadian matchup, but they're 1-6. Like their season is kind of in the balance. They might be so far behind at the end of October that they have no shot of making the playoffs. Like they could realistically be 2-11, and that would be, kind of a nightmare start for them. So they're going to be a very desperate group on Friday. And then when it comes to Sunday, Huss, to round out this 3-game in 4 days kind of homestand, which is kind of weird to think about, the Utah Mammoth, probably my favorite team to watch in the entire NHL. I'm not going to lie. Like last night I stayed up, watched the Utah-Colorado game, ended up going to overtime. But that game, like Utah ended up winning, and Colorado's been on an absolute tear to start this season. And that game, there were so many chances. It was so back and forth. Both of those teams love playing off the rush. Utah has an incredibly young and exciting team that plays at a high pace. Dylan Gunther, Logan Cooley, all of these players, so much fun to watch. So this is, it's 3 teams that the Jets will probably be favored over in all 3 games, but 3 teams with some intrigue in Seattle and Calgary, not trying to, lose their seasons too early from missing the playoffs last year, and Utah looking to continue to build off of what has been a really strong start for them with, expectations kind of varying coming into the season for them of what are they as a young, fun team.
I mean, just, while we're talking Utah, I mean, the Central is a very interesting spot right now. With that OT loss last night, the Avalanche are 5-0-2, so they've got 12 points in 7 games. The Jets can match them with a win tomorrow night against Seattle. Utah is 5-2. They've got 10. The Blackhawks are 3-2-2. They've got 8 points through their 7 games. St. Louis is above 500 at 3-2-1. And then you've got the Wild at 3-3-1, and the Dallas Stars, who had that great start beating Winnipeg and Colorado and Minnesota to start off the season. They've now lost 3 in a row, including a 5-1 home loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And, of course, the Predators, who we saw on Saturday at 2-3-2. I still expect St. Louis to be in the mix. I expect Minnesota to be in the mix. We all expect Dallas to be likely in the top 3. So these head-to-head games against a team like Utah, incredibly important for the visitors right now, who kind of realize who the teams are in the pecking order right now and are trying to sort of move into that conversation.
Yeah, Huss, I caught a bit of that Dallas-Columbus game last night as well. And like, I remember that first game, the Jets against the Stars, Scott O'Neill after said, that's not us, like giving up all those chances. Well, last night, I think Dallas's coach could have said the exact same thing, because there were so many defensive breakdowns. Jake Onger was really hung out to dry many, many times. And Columbus is one of those teams where they have the young and exciting talent, and they can put it together for certain stretches at a time. It's been consistency that has kind of been their issue. But man, they took it to the Dallas Stars last night. And Dallas, I could easily still see them finishing as the number 1 team in the Central, but at least in the first couple of weeks here, it looks like Colorado has come out of the gate on a mission. 5-0-2, like you said, tied that game up against Utah last night. Utah looked really good against them. And then the Jets, despite not having Perfetti, Lowry, and Sandberg, have won 5 straight games. Huss, I was just saying to Dave Manouk here from Illegal Curve, if you told me that at any point between like the start of the season and mid-November that the Jets would have a 5-game winning streak at all, I would have told you you're crazy. Like, missing those 3 guys to be consistent and win 5 straight, like that just wasn't, I didn't think the Jets had that club in their bag without those players, but they've managed to do it. And the schedule's not that bad the next couple of weeks. Like, you get Seattle, Calgary, Utah, then they play Minnesota. That'll be a big game on the road. Then they get Chicago, Pittsburgh, and then they hit their West Coast trip where they get San Jose and Anaheim and Calgary again, and Vancouver, who's had a strong start but just lost to Pittsburgh last night. So if there was ever a time to be missing 3 of your 7 or 8, give or take, highest impact skaters, the start of the season might be the time, and the Jets and the schedule makers definitely gave them a bit of a softer start. But honestly, the Jets will take it. And when teams like Dallas are losing to Columbus at home, it just proves that there's no easy game in the NHL, and every point is crucial.
Well, I think the Jets are proving that their depth is greatly improved and legit. And there's a lot of players, like we talked about, these young guys that, are taking the advantage of getting into the lineup right now. And I mean, when you combine the schedule and knowing when the injuries are, listen, if it was going to happen, we talked about this with Kevin Sawyer yesterday, this is the time to have to deal with it. I mean, you'd feel a lot worse about it if all of a sudden this is the final weeks of the regular season, you're battling for a playoff spot or something like that, or in the playoffs. So those guys will be rested and rejuvenated, hopefully, when they get back in and be ready to go. But at the same point, I mean, knowing the impending return of those players is also creating, I think, a really good competition amongst the forwards to make sure they keep their spot in the pecking order in the depth chart, because there's a couple big-time players that are coming back that are going to be in that top 12.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout-out to the Jets' depth so far this season, but the top of the lineup has just been so good. Like Connor Hellebuck has been absolute money so far this season, picking up right where he left off last year. Mark Scheifele has 7 goals in 6 games. That guy wants to go to Milan. Kyle Connor, fresh off signing that massive extension, he's got off to a great start. Josh Morrissey, I thought, is playing really well. Neil Pionk, time on ice leader. Someone commented that was their hardest working Jet from the game that we do every single WST post game. Like, the top of the lineup players we're going to need to carry the Winnipeg Jets to start the season. And they've gotten depth contributions. Nino Niederreiter, we spoke to him today. He's had a strong couple of games here. Tanner Pearson chipped in with a goal in the New York game. All 3 of those young players have been in. Jonathan Toews finally got on the score sheet, or at least with his first goal this past game as well. So there have been, the depth chipping in. But to me, the story, at least to start this season, has been the elite level play out of a guy like Mark Scheifele, who that LA game, like Mark Scheifele scoring 2 goals won them that game along with Connor Hellebuck. And Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor with the 2-on-1 against Calgary won them that game along with Connor Hellebuck. Like, they're riding an elite goaltender and an elite penalty kill, and they're top line players. And you may be able to argue the sustainability of it, but it's almost not worth talking about sustainability, Huss, when they have 3 of these players out, when they don't have Lowry, Perfetti, and Sandberg. That's not going to be sustainable, but no one's expecting it to be. So the fact that they've banked these wins. They've gotten 5 straight. The schedule looks light coming up. I think it's a really exciting time to be a Jets fan because this team is only going to get better, and they're already 5-1, and their star players are playing like it.
Great comment from Darth Skater. If this winning continues, Rabchak is going to have to change his favorite stat. And then in brackets, how big of a difference Sandberg makes to the Jets
I know.
team.
It's so bad for the narrative, Huss. So bad for the narrative. Last year, like, I had the record with and without Sandberg, and they were like a 500 team without him. I don't know, Huss. They're like a third of their way to another 15-1 start here. This isn't looking good for the narrative.
Well, hopefully they can keep it rolling over these next 3 games. Connor, great stuff. And as you mentioned, a very busy weekend for you and, of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Games on Thursday and Friday. We'll have post-game reaction ready for you after the game. Usually by the time K and R are done, it should be up on the channel. But if not, check it on your way to work or when you get up in the morning. Of course, on Sunday morning, 9 a.m., Connor Liss with WST Sunday Live right into an afternoon game against the Utah Mammoth. So lots going on the channel. Our post-game, our Sunday content in addition to WST Daily, and of course practice reports as well. Great having you on the show, and we didn't even get to the Blue Jays, but I know we'll have some time to talk about that. And hey, Sunday morning, I'm sure there'll be some mention of the World Series in addition to that game in the afternoon. Thanks for doing this, Connor.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Looking forward to this weekend. It's the busiest weekend like ever, but it'll be so much fun with 3 Jets games, a Bomber game, Blue Jays twice, Sunday Live. I can't wait. It's going to be a blast.
This is what it's all about. One of the best times of the year. And I thought last weekend couldn't get any better. This one might actually be better now with the Jays playing the Dodgers in the World Series. Appreciate you, Connor. John Shannon's going to join us in 5 or 10 minutes. Of course, Connor mentioned that Bomber game, 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, Princess Auto Stadium. One final time for the regular season. It's still a potential that this team could sell out every single game this season. There hasn't been an unsold seat so far this year. Just an absolutely incredible feather in the cap to the organization, to the city, and to Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans. Of course, Princess Auto is the proud sponsor of the Bombers and their home Princess Auto Stadium, and Winnipeg Sports Talk, proudly founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast. Princess Auto's got 3 Manitoba locations to serve you, featuring the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in-store today. Shop online 24/7, 365. Over at princessauto.com. Had a fun time and got some good feedback yesterday with our Chud Sports Power Poll. Speaking of which, Connor and Liss are having a lot of fun with very unique take on the Power Poll feature on Sunday Live. You're going to want to check that out on Sunday as well. And if you're looking to check out the best in power sports as we head into the weekend, there's only one place to go. That's Manitoba's Power Sports Superstore, Chud's Power Sports in Gimli, serving the community for over 80 years. Check out what Chud's has going on over at their website at chudspowersports.com. They've got it all. ATVs, UTVs, boats, snowmobiles, RVs and ice houses, street bikes, dirt bikes. You probably won't need those for the next little bit, but tractors, Argos, Sasquatch vehicles, and the biggest and best selection around of accessories and gear. Tons of great deals available as well if you want to check the website. And speaking of great deals, check out truenorthparts.ca for clearance items on gear and accessories with the best deals you'll find anywhere. But hey, the snow is about to fly. Snowmobile season is lurking around the corner, and they've got screen-worthy savings right now on Polaris and Arctic Cat sleds before the snow creeps in. Get down and see them in Gimli, corner of Highway 8 and 231. Online at chudspowersports.com or give them a call at 642-8555. Talk to Derminator and our great friends over at Chud's Power Sports. Speaking of great friends of ours, Manitoba Battery, Donnie and the gang have been great supporters of ours, and they've been great supporters of Winnipeggers and Manitobans. That's why Manitoba Battery has grown to be the biggest local battery outlet in town, where you can count on the best prices, period, when it comes to batteries for literally everything. And as you get ready for winter, Manitoba Battery, Got great deals on right now with batteries, beating the pants off the big box stores. And of course, they'll also be more than happy to deliver those batteries to you anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg if you need. You can visit them in store, free battery testing as well if you want to see how your battery's looking heading into winter. Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive. Simply give them a call or order online as well at manitobabattery.com. All right, tomorrow, the Jets are in action against Seattle. And then Friday, it is the Calgary Flames. And Sunday, the Utah Grizzlies, which means 3 of the next 4 days, you have a chance to take care of McDonald's game day deals. That's right, gang. If the Jets are playing, that means McDonald's game day deals are on, available only through the McDonald's app. But you can score a Big Mac or a filet of fish for just $4.49. You heard that right, $4.49 every Jets game day. Order through the app, click on offers. You'll see the Jets game day deal. Choose between the Big Mac or filet of fish and score the best deal around. $4.49 on Jets game days through the app for the McDonald's game day deal. John Shannon is going to join us in a few minutes, but let's just catch up on Scott Arniel's comments from today before John joins us. Scott Arniel started off talking about the success of the penalty kill so far, which has been near perfect.
Too many penalties. We got way too many opportunities to practice it. No, but the big thing for me is look really in sync. All 4 guys, plus our goaltender, all on the same page when it comes to reads, pressure points, working on retrievals, shared clears, and getting them down the ice.
Is there concern, Scott, with all the new faces coming in, that it would take a little bit longer time for them to get on sync?
Not necessarily. I think that, the guys that were here last year, we're familiar with it. Had a real good idea of what we were talking about doing. That was new to them last year, especially early on. And I think that this year, those guys have helped the new guys kind of come in and pick it up. We tried to make sure in training camp that we got some real good reps in practice, but we also made sure we used those guys that were new that we were going to look at. Tanner Pearson, Koepke, those type of guys, get them out there and see, get them in situations where we can keep teaching them before the season started.
All right, so there he is on the PK, and listen, he expressed some frustration. Now, there was a lot of penalties called on both sides on Monday night, but here's the Arniel's thoughts on whether the need is to be more disciplined and to take less penalties, or whether it was just sort of the way those games went. Here's what he had to say on that.
For me, we always talk about checking with your legs. Keep sticks off people. You get a little bit rattled at times when they're in the offensive zone. Some of those penalties, that's a big fine. But to me, it's those, stick infractions. Getting on the wrong side of people and then trying to use your stick to catch back up. So, it does happen quite a bit. There's a lot of calls early on in the season, and guys kind of get a feel for what's kind of going on. And I think there's areas where we can clean up. But at the end of the day, if they're aggressive penalties and there's things that happen to save goals, you have to do what you have to do. But I think we can clean that up a little bit.
All right, there's Scott Arniel post-practice. Appreciate Connor jumping on with that practice report from the Hockey for All Center as well. Still to come, we'll get back to a little football. Taylor Allen on the Bombers' preparation for the final game of the season. We also have Thomas Tipple from Fantasy Points with some thoughts on the NFL. But coming up right now, we welcome in the host of 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon. And of course, you know him as a regular contributor on Jets broadcasts on 680 CJOB. The one, the only John Shannon joins us now. John, what is up? It's great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Always good to be here, Andrew. Always good to be here.
I will say this, fresh off the presses just a couple hours ago, if you head on over to 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon on YouTube, hit that subscribe button while you're at it there, folks. Ray Ferraro popping on for a little chat, and what a night it was last night in Boston. Kind of emotional for the guy we know of as the Rat, Brad Marchand, tearing up. And you can imagine, John, I mean, there was a lot going into that. Probably nice that this game was now as opposed to post-trade deadline last year. But what did you think about both the welcome back for Brad Marchand and the win by the Panthers?
Well, actually, in fact, Florida did play in Boston after the trade deadline last year, but Marchand was hurt.
Of course.
So he ended up being around, but did not play. Last night was one of those nights I think that a lot of people who were at TD Garden will remember for a long period of time. I know Brad will remember it. When you're in a place as long as he was in Boston, decade and a half, that to me indicates what you mean to the city, what you mean to the franchise, and what it means to you. And I know that it did not end nicely for him when they couldn't get to a contract agreement. But at the same time, the way the Bruins handled it, the way Brad handled it last night, it was the stuff of legend in many, many ways. And I think it speaks to the game of hockey that we can still have our business side and be mad at each other for not signing long-term deals, but still love the player for what he's done for a franchise.
John, I'll be honest, I kind of always thought that Marchand would be a Bruin for life. He had the cup, and there was a question, I think it might have been Steve Levy last night. It was on one of the American networks. They asked him after the game, if he sort of had any regrets about the way that went down. It was a long and it was an interesting answer. And it kind of came around to the fact that he's very happy where he is and obviously very happy to have another Stanley Cup ring. But it wasn't easy. Where did it break down between Marchand and the Bruins? Because from that answer, it certainly seemed like he was certainly open to staying. Was it just a matter of what he wanted, maybe to make up for what a value deal he had was not a price that the Bruins were willing to pay?
I think it was more term than anything else, Andrew. I don't think that the Boston was interested in going more than 2 years. And maybe the dollar figure was an issue too, but the story behind it was in the end that Brad actually told his agent, I'm going to go in and try to solve it myself. So it ended up being a meeting with Cam Neely and Don Sweeney and Brad, where Brad thought he could get the deal done. He thought he could get something done before the deadline with the Bruins, that he would be there long term. He walked out of the meeting angry. He walked out of the meeting frustrated, and said, you know what, they won't do what I want to do, so, we're going to have to do something. And the other side of the coin was that he really only, because he controlled his own fate, he only wanted to go one place, and that was Florida. And it just so happened that one of his best friends and a former teammate in Boston, Gregory Campbell, is an assistant general manager with the Panthers. And so I think that once that became a connection, I think that seemed to work things out. And Bill Zito was able to make the deal with Don Sweeney. And next thing you know, Brad Marchand's a Panther, winning the Stanley Cup and signing a new 6-year deal. There was no way he was getting 6 years out of the Boston Bruins. No way he was going to get it. I'm not sure he's ever going to play when he's 43 years old at the end of the 6-year deal. But it was sometimes business is business, and it didn't make much sense for the Bruins. And we'll have to wait and see if the trade pays off for the Bruins, and we're going to have to wait a few years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it does seem like a bit of a scam contract, to be honest. I mean, he's getting his money. It's spread over 6 years. We knew that the Leafs were very, very aggressive and interested in Brad Marchand. How close was he to leaving Florida after winning a Stanley Cup, John?
I have not talked to Brad nor his representatives, but something says he wasn't going anywhere. Once you won, once you had the celebration that they had in Florida, and I think it's probably the same for Sam Bennett. Once they got into that summer mode, it became pretty obvious that they wanted to do something. And by the way, you talk about the contract, the way it's structured. That's what the CBA allows for.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, whether it's a buyout or whether it's an injury, that's what's allowed under the collective bargaining agreement. And there's really nothing we can say more than that Bill Zito understands the CBA as well as anybody. Brad Marchand understands his shelf life, and 4 years from now, when they're in those last 2 years, and you and I are in a home somewhere, Andrew, they'll be we'll be saying, "Yeah, we told you so." But that's a reality of what business is like in the NHL right now.
They're playing to win right now, and they with the cap going up, they'll eat it later on if they have to. I mean, they're looking to three-peat. While we're talking about Florida, they're going through it right now. No Barkov, presumably for the season. Matthew Tkachuk's out for a significant period of time. They had a nice start. They lost 4 in a row. They got that win last night. But, John, just thoughts on the Panthers and like, I can't imagine them not being a playoff team. I mean, they're the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs. Like, they'll find a way. But how much harder of a grind is this going to be? And do you think that with the return of Matthew Tkachuk and potentially an ad, this team can really take another run at a cup? Or is that just too much to ask of a team that has played as much hockey as anyone, but been to the top of the mountain for the last 2 years?
I think it's 63 games. They have played more than a lot of teams in the last 3 years. I would have told you before the Barkov injury that this was they might be my prohibitive favorite.
Yeah.
But the Barkov injury changes a lot of that. And then you have to figure out whether Bill Zito is able to compensate for the lack of Barkov with some sort of trade. Now, there's a theme today. Everybody's looking for a second-line center in the National Hockey League. Everybody's looking for one. The Panthers are looking for one. Vancouver's looking for one. On our show, Ray Ferraro actually mentioned that Doug Armstrong thought there were 27 teams looking for a second-line center. And so that's going to be the challenge between now and the deadline after the Olympic break, for teams to find a way to enhance their center position without giving up far too much. Do I think Florida's going to make the playoffs? Yeah, Florida's going to make the playoffs. And once they make the playoffs, all bets are off, because it doesn't matter whether they're first in the conference or 8th in the conference. They are going to be somebody tough to play in the playoffs because they know it better than anyone else.
It's funny you mentioned that dire need for second-line center play. Perfect timing for Evgeny Malkin to have a nice start with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who seemingly would be one of the teams that would be most likely to be in a selling mode in the 25-26 season.
Have you seen their record, Andrew?
I know.
They're 5-2. They're 5-2. They're not going anywhere.
Does that change the plan? Is Kyle Dubas saying, okay, all bets are off?
Well, you know what? When teams are bad at the beginning of a season, we always say small sample size. When teams are good, we should say the same. Small sample size. Pittsburgh should enjoy the 5-2 start and go from there. I don't think it's going to last.
Hey, while we're talking about teams that have played a lot of hockey, I know you had Bob Stauffer on a couple days ago. What do you make of the start of the Edmonton Oilers? I mean, they, like the Panthers, have played marathon springs back-to-back years, falling just short.
Well, listen, they didn't get Jake Wallman back until last night, so having Wallman back certainly helps, and then, in fact, scores the winner in overtime in Ottawa. Connor and Leon have not been, guns a-blazing so far. They know they have to be better. McDavid scored his first goal of the season last night. So, this is where you think it's just it's a long season. They need to create some chemistry. Zach Hyman's not in the lineup yet, so he's coming back hopefully in the next 2 weeks if you're an Oiler fan. So there are still some things that are being worked out. They looked at this road trip. This was a tough road trip to start the season, going to the East for the 5 games, or for the 4 games rather. And so from that perspective, this is a notoriously slow starting team, and they haven't disappointed us again. It's another slow start. The one positive out of all this for Edmonton, Andrew, is that Stu Skinner's doing his job. Lots of complaints about Skinner, and people always talk about upgrades in Edmonton. Well, you know what? He's lost 20 pounds. He's playing much more, much quicker, and he's done his job and was very good again last night in Ottawa.
I mean, I do a show every day in Edmonton with Dustin Nielsen, and I just crack. It seems like Stuart Skinner could go on like a 30-game winning streak, and the minute he has one bad game, the vultures are out again. And
that's right.
I guess that's the pressure of playing for a team that with such high expectations. And yeah, I mean, I don't even give a thought to the Oilers' first 20 games because if history tells us anything, they'll figure it out. They're just too good, and they'll be there playing come playoff time. John, you mentioned the dire need for second-line centers around the league, and I couldn't help but crack a little smile as a Jets guy as you did that, because this has been a conversation that we've been having for the last couple of years, not unlike many other teams around the league. And then Jonathan Toews came back, scored his first goal on Monday. He's had 3 points in his last 4 games, doing all the little things that we remember Jonathan Toews being so good at. Just thoughts on what you've seen from Toews compared to what your expectations were at the beginning of the season, and how impactful this could be for the Winnipeg Jets moving forward throughout the season in the playoffs, assuming that he's able to stay healthy.
I didn't know what my expectations were, because you just don't know how a body reacts after being off that long. You just don't know. I mean, we have seen really good players, elite players, take a year off or a year and a half off and come back and then fail miserably. Well, that's not what Jonathan Toews has done. He's been impressive. He's great in the faceoff circle, Andrew. That to me is, and you've been around this club to know over the last 4 or 5 years, how many times have they lost one of those key faceoffs late in the game, in a key game, and you wonder why can't they get better in the faceoff circle? Well, you know what? Now they are. They are better in the faceoff circle because Jonathan Toews is there. This is a team now, and particularly after Adam returns in a couple of weeks, you go Scheifele, Toews, Lowry, Barron. You can't even find a place for Namestnikov. And you're going, is there a better group of centers in the National Hockey League? Everybody fulfills a certain role for the club. Is there any team better? And there may not be. There may not be when you look at the depth of center position for the Winnipeg Jets.
Like many people, I tried to, keep expectations in check. And I mean, they still are. There's a lot of things that can happen. It's a long season. But he's so far ahead where I think I was maybe not expecting, but trying to convince myself, okay, let's not get too ahead of it, because we know what a great player he is. And all along, I have said, and I truly believe, that there's not a chance that Toews goes through what it took to come back and make this happen if he didn't think that he could be a very, very good version of himself. And that's proving itself out to be. And, from Jet fans, and I have a lot of conversations with people off the air, I actually can't blame them for looking at this guy, seeing the thing that he's doing, knowing what this team has sort of been missing for the last couple of years, about what the potential for this Jets team is. Because, John, on the other side of things, removing Toews from the equation, you're without Perfetti, you're without Sandberg, you're without Adam Lowry, and it's very clear that the guys that are in the lineup right now are doing everything they can to stay within that top 12 on the depth chart when everyone comes back, which is not going to be an easy feat. And that level of competition, along with a guy like Toews coming in, I think gives this team a ceiling that maybe it didn't have before as it was constructed.
Well, he's so smart. He brings to the game on the cerebral side something perhaps that others can learn from, and I think that's part of what he brings to the table. He knows the game so well. He is a consummate leader in so many ways. He understands also too that he's not going to be the best player on this team anymore. There was a time in Chicago for a decade. It was Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane and maybe Marian Hossa on a good Tuesday, and the rest of the guys on the forward lines come along. Jonathan Toews understands what his role is on this team and is going to deliver. I'm much more confident now than I was even during camp about what he can bring to this club, and then how many more dimensions that he creates for this club. I mean, the simple one is face-off circles. That's where he's going to be his best. But at the same time, I just think that there's so much off the ice, in the room, that he brings that can help some of those young guys, even some of the veterans who say, well, listen, I can still learn from Jonathan Toews. And that makes this team that much more worrisome for the other 31 teams in the NHL.
One of the other real positives for Winnipeg that, he's been allowed to sort of, find his way and grow a lot quicker than I think a lot of people expected it would happen, because this team is still being driven by the Hart Trophy winner, Connor Hellebuck, who's had a brilliant start to the season. And I mean, we've been spoiled for a lot of great stuff from Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, John. The start from those two players has been nothing short of phenomenal. And you're on, OB and following every game. I mean, the ceiling that these two players have that they're showing on a nightly basis, along with the best goaltender in the National Hockey League, there's a lot of pieces right now of a team that, should absolutely, in my opinion, be in the conversation amongst the best teams in the league right now, with the best potential for when it really counts in the spring.
Oh, I think they are. I think there is that discussion. I think that there's so many reasons why this is happening right now. Getting Kyle Connor under contract for 8 more years, I think reinforces not just to him and not to the fan base, but to his teammates that he believes in the Winnipeg Jets. I think that Mark Scheifele, there's tons of talk about Mark Scheifele. Is he going to make the Olympic team? Well, let's remember who did not play in the final game of 4 nations for the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And so Kyle Connor, in many ways, is in the same boat. Kyle Connor's got to prove to people that he deserves to be in the top 12 and one of those forwards for the Americans in Italy. So I think both Scheifele and Connor are trying to prove to their own nations exactly who they are and what they are, and they're prepared to do anything to play at the Olympics. So those things alone, the new contract and then the goal to make the Olympic teams, I think Connor's made the Olympic team. I just don't think he wants to be a healthy scratch. I think I've really helped this club. And this is where I also think that there's a real belief in, without Perfetti, without Sandberg, without Lowry, that those two guys said we have to pull a little bit more. We have to do more until everybody gets back healthy, and that's exactly what they've done. You cannot measure, in my mind, and I'm not an analytics guy. I know you find that hard to believe. I'm not a big stats guy that way, but you cannot measure the impact of what this team did when Mark Scheifele's father passed away, and how they grew together as a family. That's what everybody inside True North uses, is that we're a family. And I think we're seeing that this family is working together, striving together, and trying to get to that next level beyond the second round of the playoffs.
Well, and that family, I think, would love nothing more than to help a player like Mark Scheifele achieve what is certainly a goal and a dream of his, and that would be to wear that Canada jersey in the Olympics. It's not going to be easy. I mean, Canada's roster is absolutely stacked. You've got other players that were in similar situations to Scheifele. When we're talking about Nick Suzuki, the young players like Celebrini and Bedard. In your opinion, John, what do you believe the chances for Mark to make this team? And I mean, obviously he's had a great start. What is it going to take for Mark to be on the right side of that line once Hockey Canada makes their final decisions?
Which the decision, by the way, is not till the end of the calendar year, Andrew. So we're not going to know about it until December 31st. So there's still a lot of hockey to go to measure these guys and see whether they're right for the position. The other aspect to remember is this is not a 23-man roster. This is a 25-man roster, so there'll be an extra forward picked. There'll be an extra defenseman picked. I think there's a great chance that Mark Scheifele makes the Canadian team. The question then becomes is and you've seen this. I mean, to me, the best example was 2010 in Vancouver. Was we had 8 superstars knowing full well that they may only play 9 minutes. They may play 11 minutes. You have to become a role player. And the measure between now and the end of December will be the discussions about, can these guys be as successful by not playing 22 minutes a game, by not playing minute 15 shifts. This is what it's going to take. You're going to have to sacrifice everything in your career and how you've played the game to play for Canada, to play for the United States. You are going to have to be a different player, and people are going to have to understand that. Billy Guerin's group is going to have to see it. Doug Armstrong's group is going to have to see it. And if you can do that, then you're going to be on Canada or you're going to be on the United States.
Well, I can tell you that level of extra motivation certainly isn't hurting when it comes to some of the top players on the Winnipeg Jets, and I'd imagine that'll be the same.
By the way, we haven't mentioned the one guy that does. It's funny. We talked about Hellebuck. We talked about Taves. We talked about Scheifele. We've talked about Connor.
I know where you're going.
When do we ever talk about Josh Morrissey?
Well, I was going to bring that up.
When do we ever talk about Josh Morrissey? And I wrote it on my column on CGOB.com on Friday. Josh Morrissey is the quietest star in the National Hockey League. Not the Winnipeg Jets, the National Hockey League. This guy, and particularly with Sandberg out of the lineup, this guy has done everything and more. And just, he kind of, he walks on a cloud. There's not a great deal of emotion. It's being efficient, being quiet, being motivated, doing your job. Josh Morrissey does not get enough credit inside the city of Winnipeg, outside the city of Winnipeg, throughout the other 31 cities, for being one of the top defensemen in the National Hockey League. He just doesn't.
No.
I don't know why.
I think a little bit of it is a Winnipeg thing. I think a little bit of, just if we're looking at the last couple of years, who's been stealing all the spotlight? It has been Connor Hellebuck. And, I think that kind of diminishes, to be honest, Hellebuck's brilliance of what the team, and particularly the defensemen and their number one defensemen, have done in front of them. And listen, points-wise, it's been a little bit of a quieter start. Of course, he got that assist on Monday in the midst. Connor, I thought, did a great job. How are we not talking more about him being the franchise assist leader for defensemen? What happened right in the aftermath of the George Springer home run, and of course, Jonathan Taves scoring his first goal that everybody was talking about, and I think Josh is just fine with that. But there is a couple of opportunities this year for Josh to really kind of take that spot and maybe get a little more people talking about them. One is going to be Milan, where he almost assuredly will be one of the top 6 Canadian defensemen. And the other point is a little later on, come playoff time, where if the Jets can go further than they've been before, force people to watch the Winnipeg Jets as one of the last teams standing. Just a quick thought on this upcoming weekend, John. I know you'll be talking about it on OB. Seattle, Calgary, and Utah. 3 teams. None of them were in the playoffs last year. Seattle's had a long start, a few nice wins on the road. Calgary really struggling. We saw them Monday. And, of course, the Utah Mammoth, who I referred to as the Grizzlies earlier. Shout out to the old IHL. They're looking good, 5-2, just getting a win over the Colorado Avalanche. A lot of hockey in a short period of time against 3 teams that, for all different reasons, I think will be very hungry coming in to challenge the Jets at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, one of the key things to the start of this season, if you looked at the Jets' schedule, was that they I don't want to say it was easier, but they were playing teams that didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they I think in their hearts, they knew they had to take advantage of this situation. And this was one of the weekends you looked at and said, okay, even though Seattle's been off to a good start, their last 2 games have not been their best. Calgary is Calgary. Lots of discussion after Monday, and certainly lots of discussion after Saturday in Vegas. To me, the one to watch is the Utah game, because I do think that Utah is primed to become a contender, primed to be in the top 16. And it's even doubly important when you consider that that is a Central Division game. So it's a 4-pointer no matter which way you look at it. And when you look at what they have done, and with Sergachev on the back end and all those great young goal scorers up front, Clayton Keller's playing pretty well. Dylan Gunther can shoot the puck. This is and JJ Paterka has been pretty good since he got traded from Buffalo. They're a fun team to watch. At the same time, I would say that this is an important year in Utah too for the coach and the manager, because the expectations are high, and they know the pressure they're under in order to try to get to that next level. So it's going to be fun to watch that game against the Jets.
Yeah, it certainly will, and they're in the toughest neighborhood in the National.
And remember
Hockey
how bad the Jets were last year in Salt Lake City. That he got Arneal swearing. Adam Lowry got hurt. The only positive that came out of the Utah game last year was that Morgan Barron got moved back to center, and Morgan Barron hasn't looked back since.
Yeah, I mean, he's day to day. We hope that he'll be in the lineup tomorrow night against the Kraken. He's been one of the best stories of the early portion of this first half a dozen games for the Winnipeg Jets. Before we go, how dire is this situation in Calgary? I mean, we talked to my pal Pat Steinberg on Monday before the show, and he said, well, I mean, listen, they got a nice win, but they'd lost 5 in a row. It's now 6 in a row. They've got the Habs tonight. Usually, and listen, I don't think the coach is in any danger, but they're on the verge of forcing their general manager to take a path that I don't think they wanted to this early in the season.
Well, Ryan Huska just got a new 2-year extension, too, so the coach isn't going anywhere.
And deservedly so. I thought he did an unbelievable job last year.
Yeah. Listen, Craig Conroy's smart guy. He knows exactly what this team is. They overachieved last year in the second half of the season, particularly after the Four Nations break. Are they going to – they're not blowing it up yet. They are better. And I think we saw it actually on Monday night, Andrew.
For sure.
We saw them. They were a better team than they had performed earlier. The problem is losing begets losing. And so how do you keep your team out of a funk when you keep losing games as they have? This is a long range plan in Calgary. Running parallel with rebuilding the hockey club is building a new arena. They have to ensure that they're in a good spot when the arena opens in 3 years. So it would be delusional to think that they're a playoff team at this point. And they do have some good young parts, but the challenge now is to keep those good young players going in the right direction and not getting bogged down with too many losses. So that's the challenge that Ryan has. That's the challenge that Craig Conroy has. And then managing ownership to say, you know what, we're on the right path. And that's Don Maloney's job as the president of hockey operations. He's the one that deals with Murray Edwards every day. And he's the one that's going to try to make sure that these guys are given the license to create a really positive situation in Calgary in the short term in order to make sure they're successful in the long term.
Can that success in the long term, there's a couple of studs in this upcoming draft led by Gavin McKenna. Is there the stomach for Calgary for the short-term pain that potentially might mean them being near the top of the draft lottery this year?
Oh, I think there is, because I think the arena puts that all in focus. I think that's the long-range plan, is to be good when the new place opens. And so it reminds me of a story, Andrew, that Lou Lamoriello, when he was here in Toronto, sat with me one day and he said, we worked awfully hard to get Austin Matthews.
It seems like that work might be starting in Calgary.
Put it in perspective.
No doubt. John, thanks so much. Always appreciate you jumping on. And of course, folks, you can hear John contribute on game days over at 680 CJOB and writing on the website. But for people that are joining us on YouTube that have not yet checked out 100% Hockey with you and Darren Millard, fill them in on what's up right now, what's coming up, and why they should be subscribing and checking out the amazing content there.
Well, other than your show, we have the best guest list going. Andrew, I think that we get every mover and shaker in the National Hockey League. Tom Fitzgerald is up next for us. It'll come out tomorrow. We'll be dealing with agents, presidents, managers, commissioners, players, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We don't do as much on YouTube as other people. We just put a little bit of a snippet on, but we want people to drive to the podcast. And you know what? The other thing about it is we're having a hell of a lot of fun. And in the end, I think that if that comes across, that becomes entertaining for everybody at home. So it's always good fun. 100% hockey with my pal Darren Millard, and he keeps talking about Brandon, Manitoba, and it makes me sick.
Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you're subscribing to 100% Hockey. And, of course, pop by and check it out on the YouTube. John, thank you so much. I know it's going to be a busy few days. Enjoy. Quick thoughts on the Jays and the World Series. It must be crazy around there right now.
I had to mortgage my house to get a ticket. But other than that, it's bonkers. It is crazy. I mean, you know how important the baseball team is to this city when the Maple Leafs are changing their game times. And they changed their game time at home on Saturday from 7 to 5 in order so people could actually enjoy both events. It is nuts. I don't think many people outside of Toronto are giving the Jays much of a chance. Maybe outside of Canada are giving them much of a chance. But you know what? If Vladdy Guerrero can hit the ball, this team is going to do just fine. Thank you very much.
I can't wait. And it's so funny you mentioned the Leafs. I mean, Stolar's had some interesting comments for the rest of the team, which normally would have been front page news everywhere. And it kind of quietly was talked about in a few Leaf circles because everyone was so busy going crazy about the Jays. Well, so I know Bruce is pumped about that.
Friday and Saturday would be a huge event in Southern Ontario because it's back-to-back Toronto-Buffalo. And nobody's paying attention except my dog Gordy. Gordy's mad.
Say hi to Gordy. Gordy's welcome on the show anytime as well. John, thanks again for the time. All the best, and we'll look forward to hearing you on the broadcast coming up starting tomorrow.
Cheers.
Thanks so much. There's John Shannon. And again, 100% Hockey, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We are going to check in with the Bombers. Our pal Taylor Allen is back from practice and is going to join us in just a minute. As we mentioned, we hit the clean line, the Jets lines earlier today for a clean line. Look on game days. We'll throw that out on all the socials. But Taves with Niederreiter and Nyquist, Scheifele with Connor and Velarde. It was Brad Lambert skating with Iafallo and Nemetsnikov, and no Barron meant Parker Ford was in between Koepke and Pearson. Of course, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical is the local leader when it comes to plumbing services and more. The leaders in both residential and commercial jobs, and has grown incredibly over the last 40 years with a local focus and incredible Red Seal plumbers and technicians to get the job done right for big and small projects alike. If you're sitting at home and saying, I know Clean Line, they do lots of great stuff with the Jets, what I need them for. You don't want to need them, but when you do, you better make that call. 24-hour emergency service is available as well. All the information is over at cleanline.ca, the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. And as you can see by Adam Lowry in that sweet Clean Line shirt, Clean Line captain approved. Tomorrow and throughout the weekend, it is going to be bananas. Get your seat at your local Boston Pizza Lounge to take it all in. Tomorrow night, Jets and Kraken, and a big Thursday nighter with the Vikings taking on the Chargers. Jets and Flames Friday, World Series Friday, World Series Saturday, Bombers in the afternoon, and then, of course, NFL football on Sunday. No better place to do it at your local Boston Pizza. Amazing prizes for Jet games with the Pick-a-Player contest. Spin to win for NFL football. Blue Jays hoodies being given away during Jays games. And, of course, the new flight menu featured right now with pizza flights, wing flights, chicken bite flights, and fry flights. And you can receive a Flight Club invite for a chance to win BP's grand prize for a trip or two to California to see the Jets play the Ducks February 27th, including flights, hotel, and amazing game tickets. Boston Pizza, ready for you for the big game tomorrow night and, of course, throughout the World Series. Speaking of the World Series, potentially as early as later today, if not tomorrow, the World Series Blue Jays hats are going to be coming into Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. I would suggest that you follow Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram. You might even want to throw your notifications on because those are going to go fast. The game hats with the World Series patch and a bunch of other Jays gear coming in. But as you already know, when it comes to stock, nobody has it like Royal, and they've got a ton of Jays gear, but it is flying off the shelves right now. So get on down to Royal Sports for your World Series gear, Blue Jays merch and more, and get ready for the World Series beginning Friday in downtown TO. All right, we got a lot of football coming up this half hour. We're going to check in with the Bombers coming up right away with Taylor Allen. Thomas Tipple is going to join us for a little NFL chat. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug. All right, let's bring in Jeff Hamilton for...
Sorry, hold on. I'm hitting
What's going on?
one sec.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Down to Princess Auto Stadium we go. Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press joins us now. Taylor, what's up, buddy? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to be on with you guys.
Yeah, we played Jason Hogan's comments yesterday, and I can today, and I can tell you that the response from the fan base was one of a little bewilderment. Didn't seem like there was really any accountability on the coaching planner side of things. One day later, what's the mood around the team and particularly the offense as they try to move past one of the most underwhelming victories in recent Bomber history, getting ready to go either east or west come playoff time?
Well, it was close practice day, and the talk today, was on all the individual award winners for the team. So luckily luckily for them, they had an excuse that no one was holding their feet to the fire about this poor offensive play. But yeah, we all took our turns, asking Jason Hogan, everything there was to be asked about how just terrible this offense has looked these past 2 weeks. And yeah, I mean, what's the guy going to say, right? But he held his cards close to his chest.
I'll be honest. I would have expected a coach to say, even if he didn't believe it, that, you know what, we got to be better. There's a lot of things that I need to do. Like, essentially to not just put it entirely on the players and say, these guys are just out there making mistakes. I mean, maybe this wasn't the intention of the way that it was thrown out there, but there wasn't a lot of accountability on his side, and it sort of seemed like he was just throwing it on these guys, saying, I don't know what the hell they were doing. They got to play better. And it's probably not the way that you want to come off. I don't know how well that would be received, even if the players feel that that was legitimately the case.
And that's totally fair, Huss. But I mean, we've been basically having these chats with Jason Hogan all year. It's felt like, except for that, the week 2 game against BC and then the big game they had against Hamilton a few weeks back. So I think he's kind of tired of being asked about why his job isn't going so well and why this offense isn't looking too good. And the players have been subtle, but some of them have kind of taken some shots here and there about the play calling and Jason and his inexperience and whatnot as well. So I think maybe at this point of the season and just with the way everything has gone and whatnot, I think he's probably just getting a little defensive and just tired of constantly being asked, hey, why is this offense stuck in the mud? Not giving him a pass on that, because obviously at this time of year you want to be peaking, and they keep saying that they want to be peaking and whatnot. But these past 2 weeks, I mean, just looking at this team, especially offensively, it's hard to find anyone who follows this team who's a believer that this team can go on the road, win 2 games in a row in the playoffs, and then somehow pull off winning the Grey Cup. So, it's hard to have confidence in this group right now. That's for sure.
We'll get to the path to the playoffs in a minute. You mentioned the award nominees. Stanley Bryant, the offensive lineman. Evan Holm gets the defensive player nod. I think there's a number of players that were probably in consideration for that. No surprise that the MOP and Canadian is Brady Oliveira. But Trey Vival, one of the great stories of this Bomber season, the rookie nominee, the special teams nominee, and I would suggest, Taylor, that Mr. Vival has a pretty decent chance on both accounts of being involved in the big CFL Awards night here in Winnipeg in November. Thoughts on Vival in particular, but also the other guys that heard their names called?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I get the votes, I'll be honest, I'll be voting for Trey to win special teams and rookie of the year in this league. And yeah, it's an incredible story. I mean, this is a guy who was just trying to make it as a pro, didn't really even know what he's really walking into when he came up to Winnipeg. And he's been absolutely electric. And you could potentially even argue that he deserved to have his name mentioned in the MOP race for the Bombers, really. I mean, he's basically won them 2 games. That Toronto game at home that Strevler started, they had no business winning that one. Trey won that one for them. And then the game in Ottawa that, Strevler also started, where they threw for 2 passing yards, which is what it felt like. Trey had another big return in that game as well. So this rookie, I know he's just a returner, and I mean that loosely, but he's won them 2 games. And without those 2 games, this team isn't in the playoffs. So yeah, Trey's been absolutely lights out. And then Evan Holm, the MODP, that's an award that could have gone to Tony Jones or Dietrich Nichols. There was a couple of guys in the running for that one, but Evan is absolutely deserving. And it was kind of funny. We're talking to him in the locker room a few moments ago, and you could tell that it physically pained him to be in the spotlight and talking about himself and how he was recognized, over, all his other teammates and stuff. He was very uncomfortable, and he even admitted it as well. And Mike O'Shea afterwards said, I'm not surprised that's Evan, but you could just tell how happy everyone is for him. With Zach Claris, he walked by the scrum, and he chimed in like, "Oh, he's a dog," and Trey Vival, he was talking about how happy he is for Evan and whatnot. So yeah, you could tell that the guys in the room are really pumped to see Evan get acknowledged like that, because he's kind of the guy that has flown under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, and listen, a huge part of the success and the improvement of the Blue Bomber defense. I think he's borne a big load there, and they've needed it because this team has not been, shall we say, powered by what's been happening on the offensive side of the football. I mean, that's going to be the focus going in. I mean, we know what the special teams are going to be. We know where the defense is at heading into the playoffs. And I guess we probably know where the offense is, and it's just simply not good enough. We have seen glimpses earlier in the season. The goal is to be as close to that as possible, not this weekend, but the following weekend, likely against the same team that they are playing. For sake of argument, let's assume that Hamilton takes care of business on Friday, and Montreal is playing this game knowing full well that they are hosting a game next weekend, probably against Winnipeg. I would assume that Davis Alexander, who's missed a bunch of time, some of these guys won't play. What are you feeling about how the Bombers will handle things? Because there's 2 sides. Some will say, well, you got to get those guys out there and get the offense going to get a good feeling going into the into the playoffs. The other side is we've seen how devastating some injuries have been. The Bombers can't afford that. Do you maybe put in backups in this game, play literally the most vanilla game of all time, and make sure you've got your playmakers available for the Montreal game? Some big decisions to be made, because technically there is still a possibility of the Bombers playing on the road in the West, although I don't know whether that's a much more of an advantage as opposed to going to the East.
It is such a unique situation for this team. Like you said, they're not playing good football right now. They've been talking for weeks how they want to be rolling at the most important time of the year, and obviously they're not doing that. So in theory, you'd want to give it your all in this game and, be feeling good, be feeling confident going into the postseason. But then at the same time, you do want to stay healthy because this team is arguably, an injury away from totally having no chance at all. Mike O'Shea did say yesterday that Nick Dembski, they do expect him to play in the postseason, which is a massive boost. But yeah, it's a game that's probably not really going to mean much. We'll see on Friday if the game actually means anything on Saturday or whatnot. But early signs, Huss, do indicate that the Bombers are probably not going to, roll out with their starters, at least for the full 4 quarters. There's a few guys that in practice this week, they haven't been taking as many reps with the ones that you would typically expect in a normal week. And, Mike O'Shea hasn't really revealed much. And Brady Oliver as well today was asked about it, and he said, well, you guys know I can't speak on that, but Brady said he doesn't want to play. He says, if it's up to me, I'll be playing. But yeah, at this point, though, I'd be pretty surprised if we saw all the starters, playing for full 4 quarters. But again, I do understand the argument as to why people would think that they should. Even this game means nothing, even though you.
I think no doubt. Taylor, I think we got a little issue with that connection right there at the end, so we'll leave it there. But thanks very much for this. Of course, Taylor will be covering the Bombers Friday and then on the road throughout the playoffs, and let's hope that includes a couple of road trips and then a very busy week. Grey Cup week here in Winnipeg. Long ways to go. For the record, I would prefer not to see Zach Collaros, Brady Oliveira, any of the players that, that they absolutely need for their success on Monday. And the other thing is, just part of this, I think their connection's better now, Taylor. You're going to be doing it against the team that you're probably playing the next week. So any sort of, let's try this. This is what we're going to do next week. It's literally against your likely opponent, which I think complicates things as well. So for the record, I am not expecting a barn burner between these two teams Saturday afternoon. And the hope is that the Bombers will be up to the challenge the following week, whether they're going likely out to the east or to the west, as they begin a very unique route to try to get back to that home dressing room for the Grey Cup game.
Well, I'll take it up with Wade Miller that they need some better Wi-Fi here at the stadium. So I apologize for.
No, you're back now. I don't know what happened. It just it just went. Every now and then that happens. Appreciate it all. Just quick thought on BC Edmonton the BC Edmonton game, and then BC Saskatchewan, Calgary Edmonton. The way that the games are laid out, with Calgary and Edmonton playing on Friday, I think Edmonton's going to be doing everything they can to try to finish on a winning note. I mean, there's no tomorrow for them. They'd love to stick one to the Stamps on the way out. Edmonton, to me, is a live dog in that game. And if that is the case, then the Bombers could potentially go to Calgary. If Saskatchewan wins that final game, they're probably going to play some of their starters because you don't want to keep these guys out for a month. Like, there's some things outside of this game that are actually very unique about the final week of the season and just the shake-up. But, I mean, to me, BC's sort of the scariest team right now. I guess the good thing for the Bombers is if they're going to the west, BC's going to the east, and the same thing. Funny enough, though, the Bombers have been the kryptonite for Nathan Rourke and the BC Lions as opposed to anybody else.
If I was a Bomber fan, that would be what I was hoping for. I would hope that the Bomber, I know they're 0-3 against the Stamps this year, but I would hope the Cards, end up laying out where the Bombers would go to Calgary. I think the Stampeders, they've been and whatnot, but I think BC and Montreal right now are the top 2 teams in the league. I know both of them probably aren't going to be, or they're not going to be the number 1 seeds in their division, or Montreal still has a chance, I guess. But I think those 2 teams right now are playing some of the best football. So yeah, if you're the Bombers, if you can avoid playing those 2 teams in the first round, I think you'd be pretty happy with that. But yeah, I'm just happy that we're going into the last week of the year and there's still a lot left to be decided. There's been a few years in recent memory where it's the last week of the year and there's absolutely nothing at stake. And that's not fun for anyone. So whatever ends up happening, at least there's something to actually be invested in this week.
Well, at least we can talk about it now. I wouldn't be surprised whether we're having that conversation on Saturday when we kick off at 2 p.m. because of what's happened around it. But we will at least wait until that happens. And then, as I say, get ready for what really counts. And that is going to be the East or West semifinal with the Bombers on the road the following week. Taylor, thanks for doing this, pal. All the best.
You bet. Take care, guys.
All right, there's Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press covering the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And again, Taylor will be on the road with the blue and gold throughout the playoffs. We're going to get Thomas Tipple in just a minute to join us. But folks, speaking of the CFL and the Grey Cup, you've got just over 30-odd hours to get your tickets for the early bird draw, so you're entered into the Grey Cup bonus. That is right, folks. For the HSC Millionaire Lottery, we've added 3 Grey Cup packages, including prime tickets to the 112th Grey Cup at Princess Auto Stadium. But you have to get your tickets in before Thursday night at midnight. Now, the following week is the big early bird bonus. You get them in by this Thursday, you're in for that too. 2 massive prizes, $85,000 cash or a 25 BMW i4 eDrive 35 valued at $74,000 and $26,000 in Digno travel vouchers. $85,000 cash, the other option, 2 of those prizes given out, and 30 winners of gas and groceries at Red River Co-op with $500 gift cards as well. And everyone that enters is going to be in for the grand prize draw, one of 5 Dream Home packages valued at $1.5 million, a West St. Paul option, Sage Creek, another one in West St. Paul, one in Oak Bluff, one on Vancouver Island, or $1.25 million cash, and you could be Manitoba's next millionaire. It's all in support of Manitoba's hospital, the Health Sciences Center. Go to hscmillionaire.com now to get your tickets. If you'd like to get them in person, pop by London Drugs, pop by your local Red River Co-op, and don't forget to enter in for the 50-50 and extra cash plus. The jackpot for the 50-50 now over $1 million. So there's going to be a lot of winning coming up, and it's all in support of the HSC, Manitoba's hospital. All right, let's welcome in our pal Thomas Tipple. We got NFL Week 8 getting going tomorrow. Thomas Tipple, of course, joins us from Fantasy Points, which is where we go when we need fantasy or betting advice. With the Fantasy Points data suite, they've got the best research tool in the world. You can use code WST10 to sign up and dominate your league. Thomas, listen, we're going to talk football in a minute. I see that Jays hat on you. I know you make a living as a football guy, but the baseball fan in you must have aged probably a couple decades over the past week, but feeling pretty good as we go into the freaking World Series.
That's right. And especially as a Toronto sports fan, right? Like I'm from Guelph, Ontario, right? I live in Winnipeg, but I am from Guelph, and I remember the Leafs failing in the Eastern Conference Final against Carolina. I've watched every heartbreaking Game 7 loss in Toronto history in my age. The only sport I don't really watch is basketball. And even I watched the Raptors win a championship from a slow pitch playoff game in the bench. I'm locked in on a lot of things Toronto sports. That game is something I'll never forget. It was amazing. I think I have a controversial take, Huss.
I'm here for it.
Okay, I think ring culture has ruined sports fandom.
Oh, I'm so with you on this.
So a lot of people will be like, and I think it's obviously a social media thing. This is me, old man, yelling at clouds, but social media will tell you guys didn't win a ring. The season was a failure. That's for the players. Just enjoy the moments that you have within these games. We're going to get swept. It says whatever. Enjoy the moments while you're in them. When I was sitting there watching that game, and excuse me for waxing poetic, but I was sitting there watching that game, and in that moment, I, a grown man at 37, had my lucky bat that I have back here. My family, my foster family, as I'm adopted, used to own the Moose Jaw Diamond Dogs. That bat was one of the last bats used in the Prairie League right there, and I had it in hand. I was there. I put myself in the moment like I was a kid again. That is what it is about. It's not about winning a championship to post on social media that your team won one. Enjoy the moments while you have them on this run. And Friday is going to be another amazing one. Almost went to the game, saw the price of the tickets, and even I couldn't bring myself to do it.
No, it was pretty tough. No, I love that take. And we had a lot of this conversation last year. I mean, the Jets had this incredible season. They were the number 1 team overall in the league. Almost 6 months to earn it. I mean, it's worth something. It was something that everyone loved. I mean, you should embrace. I mean, it was great to see that banner. Everyone wants the ultimate thing. Only one of 32 teams in the NHL or the NBA or the National Football League are going to win.
Yeah.
It doesn't make your team a bunch of losers if they make it to the championship game and go. You got to appreciate it all. So I'm with you. I think winning the AL is such an amazing accomplishment for a team that was expected to be below 500. And the future of this franchise is changed with the signing of Vladdy, what this team has done. The expectations will be different moving forward. And hey, chip in a chair, 30 teams are out. And
That's right.
and it's their opportunity to do it. I have to ask you this just before we get to football, though.
Yeah.
As a Leaf guy and a Jays guy, what was your reaction when you saw Vlad roll in for Game 7 wearing the Matthews jersey? There was a lot of people considering the Leafs Game 7 history that were straight up spooked. Were you?
Look, if you're not following me on Twitter, you should be, because my reactions are worn all over it's on my sleeve, and I thought he cursed us, if I'm being honest. But then it just made me angry, because the excuse for the Leafs are, well, it's really tough to win when you've got a whole city and a history. They did it with 44,000 people and an entire country on their back, and they didn't collapse under the pressure. So please, Maple Leaf Sports, do better, be better. Stop doing that to us.
I think the Leafs were the big winner out of Game 7, the big winner of Jace, because Vladdy did that. Maybe that can be cited as the next time the Leafs get to a Game 7, hopefully Matthews, mark my words, he should show up in a Vladdy jersey for that
lost.
one. Yeah.
He showed up in the next game and they lost. Unbelievable.
Save it for Game
work.
7. Save it for Game 7. Let's get to the NFL. Your Ravens are back. They are 1-5. It's hilarious. The loss by Pittsburgh last week has made them just slightly below Pittsburgh to still win the AFC North. I mean, we'll see what happens long-term as far as winning the games, but sounds like Lamar's back from a fantasy perspective. What do you expect from the Ravens coming out of their bye week with their backs against the wall?
So you've got two opportunities here, right? Obviously, they need to win the games. If for some reason they just can't put it together in the back half of this year, I'm concerned for fantasy upside, potentially resting some guys like Derrick Henry down the stretch, maybe not playing Lamar as much. We'll see. But I don't see that with the team. Now, I don't think they win the AFC North. They need so many things to go right. They need to beat out Pittsburgh. They really cannot slip up. They almost have to win out for that to happen, given where they are right now, just the odds in general. But I will say they have one of the softest rush defense schedules in the NFL. And I got to tell you that we talked, I think it was last week, about someone like Derrick Henry and what he would be able to do if you're going and trading for players while they're on their bye week. We're talking about Chicago with one of the most inept rush defenses in the league. One of the most inept defenses, period. You got Miami, who just watched Quinshon Judkins go for 3 on them. One of the worst. They're also going to get absolutely torched by Bijan Robinson this week as well. One of the worst defenses I've ever been forced to watch, whether I get paid to or not. I hate that I have to watch the Miami Dolphins play football every week. Then you get the Minnesota Vikings, pretty good defense. Their offense also struggling. I don't think they're going to be able to cover Justin Jefferson at all. That could be a big loss for them. Then you get Cleveland. Now, I don't think Dylan Gabriel can throw a football harder than I can or farther than I can, but it is an AFC North game, and Huss, you know enough. Those games are a coin flip no matter what. Even when the Browns were winless, it was still hard to beat Cleveland if you're an AFC North
Their
team.
defense is legit.
Taylor is an absolute monster, and I hate that they got another interior defensive lineman to cause havoc. I feel like they got him to stop the run on the inside, specifically with Derrick Henry, but we'll see what happens. Then you get the Jets going through the unfortunate Tyrod Taylor stuff, although they're still not officially announcing it. We know what they're doing. It's the magician hands. Then you get the Bengals, and they're weird. Like they're like a kryptonite for the Baltimore defense. We've seen the 50 to 55 type games from them. We'll see what happens. New England is going to be a tough game. Drake May could be pushing for an MVP towards the end of that if he's carrying New England on his back. And then brutal game against Green Bay in Week 17. They almost need to win out for all of these. I think they could. It's going to be tough, but I expect Derrick Henry to be a top 8 running back, top 6 running back. Lamar Jackson's going to have to be the MVP. We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, like I'm an optimist, but I'm also, look, they call me the paragon of objectivity for a reason. I'm objectively expecting a little bit of a disappointment with this, but I think they're going to make for good TV.
They're in a good spot to be 1-5. I'll just say that. And they've got the Bengals. Just while you brought up the Bengals, I still can't believe what we saw last Thursday night. Joe Flacco, who'd been with the Bengals for all of a week, tearing up the Pittsburgh defense. Jamar Chase, looking like the guy that was picked first overall. Mm-hmm. How much juice does Joe Flacco give the Bengals moving forward, or is this just a quick mirage?
Well, look, Joe Flacco is no savior. He is not a messiah, but he could be a fantasy football godsend in just how much he is insanely targeting his guy, because he's smart. He knows what he needs to do. This is his kind of last hurrah. 23 targets in Week 7, a 48.9% target share, went 16 for 161 and 1. Pretty amazing, but that's not even all of it with how wild this is. Jamar Chase is 3rd in the league in expected fantasy points per game, and he's outperforming that by a 0.9 fantasy points over expectation. That is with Browning, the ghost of Joe Flacco, a banged up Joe Burrow. He is just that good. I'm expecting Joe Flacco to at least be able to go, I'm going to find the best player I've ever played with in my career over and over and over and over. I'm really, really excited fantasy-wise for that. It's hard not to be. It really is. Jamar Chase's 23 targets are 3rd most by any player in any game since targets became a stat in 1992.
Flacco didn't even know the plays that they were calling in. He was basically just saying, okay, Jamar, in, out. And the Pittsburgh had absolutely no answer for it. It was... it would look like men against boys, and that's got to be concerning from the Steelers from a defensive standpoint with where they are this year.
And not just that. Remember when we talked about the Burrow injury before, and I said don't quit on T. Higgins either? T. Higgins wasn't that far behind. 6 catches on 10 targets, a 21.3% target share, 96 and 1. No other Bengals receiver earned more than 4 targets. Joe Flacco is going to stand back there and find his guy. The only other player I'm sneaky paying attention to is Noah Fant.
I mean, it's going to be, and the great thing is the Bengals defense stinks. They're going to give up plenty of points. Yes, and if they want to win these games, they're going to just have to be chucking it all along. Speaking of chucking it, Rashee Rice came back immediately. Immediately saw his balls. I think he cashed his reception prop in the first half, had 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs, I mean, emasculated the Raiders unlike any beatdown I've seen in a long time. 30 first downs to 30 offensive plays. We certainly don't need to talk Raiders, but just now that we've seen this Chiefs offense fully healthy, We know we're buying Rice. What does this mean for Worthy, for Brown, and for Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I think it just showed the pecking order, right? But I got to admit, I'm a little disappointed by what I saw with Rashee Rice. There was some meat left on the bone. He scored 23.2 fantasy points on only 9 targets in the first half. It was not competitive. He commanded he was a 29.2% target share. Dang good considering it was on an unreal 50% of his routes, 7 targets on 14 routes. Now, it's the 14 routes that concern me. Elite utilization, but if you dig deep, he logged a 42.5% route share, running 10 or fewer. He ran 10 fewer routes than Xavier Worthy. So Worthy was out there more than Rice was. Now, if you adjust for the breakout, he didn't clear 50% route share in any quarter. So before it was a blowout, they clearly had a approach that they were going with, a little bit of a wide receiver by committee approach. Why this is significant, Rashee Rice was over 74% in every game last year. It is important to note that when he became a full-time player, he was out there consistently all the time. He finished as a wide receiver, 9 in week 7, but that was 2 touchdowns. Was 1 left on the board. It was a very unique play with Gardner Minshew. I thought it was very interesting that they had Rice back at practice for a week, and they were already designing these kind of intense pass plays for him. Here's another thing that kind of concerns me. Only 42 yards on those 9 targets, a 4.7 yard per target. He totaled only 15 air yards. That is obviously yards traveled in the air when the ball leaves the quarterback hands. That is a 1.7 ADOT. That was lower than Breece Hall at 4.5, Kyron Williams at 2.6 this season. When zooming out, Rice's full route tree looks even more alarming. 26% of his routes came behind the line of scrimmage. 89% of his routes had a depth of 5 yards or less. Really zooming in, he really looks like just an extension of the run game because they really don't have one, as you know. I'm concerned that maybe the ultimate blow up is not going to be there for somebody like Rashee Rice, but that was one game. It's just something to note. I obviously, like I said, I like to be objective and I want to get everyone excited. He's an exciting player. It was nice to see him come back and play, but I think there could be a slight cap to his ceiling. Rashee Rice in his last 10 games plus, 10 targets, 23 points, 14 targets, 29, 6 targets, 18, 9 for 17, 6 for 17, 12 targets for 11.7, 9 for 24, 10 targets for 18.2. Just something to be objective about. Could be a low-end wide receiver 1 every week, but wide receiver scoring was a little bit back. And shout out to my guy, Jordan Addison, who's averaging a very quiet 17 to 18 plus points per game since coming back from a weird 1-quarter suspension / benching by KOC. I'm excited, Huss, but I got to tell you, little bit concerning.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that was against a Raider team completely uncompetitive. Of course, they're bringing him back in his first game. I think that probably was a little bit of it. They're going to change things around. I think in the next 4 weeks, we'll see those numbers change. We'll see deeper balls to Rashee, and I think we'll see them consistently there. And it'll be interesting to see what that does to Worthy and Hollywood Brown. But the more the merrier. As the Chiefs say, EGE, everybody's got to eat.
That's right.
Thomas, always great having you on the program. Good luck with this week, and we'll look forward to having you back on next week as we get to the midway point of the NFL season. Maybe some mid-season fantasy awards we can look at. Biggest busts. I've got a long list of those guys. Have a great one, pal. Thanks again.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me as always. Keep in mind one quick thing. We're at 50% off right now over at fantasypoints.com. Huss, you guys have your promo code for 15%. All of the data that you heard me spew today comes straight from fantasypoints.com and the great articles. The WST promo code for 15% off gets you 15% off the 50% off price. So
Boom.
Don't wait. Tons of props. We go all the way through the Super Bowl. We even do props for draft day. Don't wait. Get smarter with the conversations at the water cooler with your friends. Let them know who knows more about ball. Shout out to everyone watching. Shout out to T. Will, who was with me with the Guru this morning over at fantasypoints.com.
Beautiful. T. Will gets around. He's always here with WST. Thanks so much. Hey, and follow Thomas at L, like EL Nostra Thomas on X, and hit him up in his DMs. He's great at getting back to WST listeners. All right. We got to get to the Cool Bet lines. And I am, tell you what, I'm looking forward to WST winners on Friday. Going 5-0 last week, 9-1 in the last 2 weeks. And I'm also looking forward to the poker tourney tonight. If you popped in late tonight, WST Wednesday Night Poker Series continues. We're all gunning for Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press, the champion. There is a $100 bounty on Hammer's head. There's the usual $100 bounty on my head and Remis's head. $30 entry starts at 8 p.m. What you're going to do is go to CoolBet, click on poker, download the poker software, and then get in, click on tournaments. There's a little search thing you can put in. Click the magnifying glass, put in WST. You'll see it, pop in, enter, join us 8 p.m. tonight for what should be a heck of a lot of fun. And a special thank you for myself and Remis to whoever gets hammered tonight. Because, as I said, we cannot handle another Friday victory lap of Hammer coming into the program after another win tonight. Speaking of CoolBet, let's get over to the CoolBet lines. And tonight is a lighter night in the National Hockey League. The Minnesota Wild are in New Jersey to take on the Devils. Devils just played last night, beating the Leafs. They're going to go with Nico Dawes, the backup. Minnesota, this was plus 115 earlier today. It's down to plus 106. I do like the Wild. I think this is a really nice spot for Minnesota. Ellis for Buffalo, first NHL start in net, going up against the Wings that have had a great start to the season. This one has moved a little bit towards Buffalo as well. Buffalo a minus 112, slight home favorite. This is basically a pick 'em against Detroit. And then another really tight game that's gotten a little closer as well. Calgary earlier today was plus 105. They're now minus 103. So, I mean, two games that are basically pick'ems. Montreal, Calgary, Detroit, Buffalo, and then Minnesota's a slight road dog against the New Jersey Devils. Going to be a fun one tonight. Futures are up, by the way. Calder numbers are off the board. But you've got all the divisions. Jets right now are 6-1 to win the Central. Just saying. Dallas, despite being in last place, is plus 150. The Avalanche are plus 175. Jets 6-1. Minnesota plus 850. St. Louis 16-1. Utah 18-1. Nashville 50, and the Blackhawks plus 250. Jets 20-1 to win the Cup, and plus 1150 to win the Western Conference. If you're with me and you rode on the Jays for the AL, this might be a good time to reinvest in a few of those Jets numbers. You know, considering what this team did last season, Remis, and the start that they've had, I'm actually stunned that the Jet division number is 6-1.
Yeah. I actually agree with you. They're number one right now. They're the reigning winner. No respect from the odds makers, but that's okay. That's why you can come in and take advantage of what you think is a better number. So 6-1, it's actually pretty good considering they did win. So I like that one for sure. Maybe I will throw a little bit on there. And yeah, the Cup winner 20-1, conference. What'd you say? 11-1.
Conference is plus 1150.
Yeah,
I guess they kind of think it's tougher to win the West.
The West is tough.
But 20-1 right now. They got Rocket Richard Trophy winners points up there. Heck, Mark Scheifele is doing great right in the mix. You want to get a piece of Scheif? 65-1 to lead the league in goals this year. And then, of course, Hart Trophy numbers as well. Connor Hellebuck, 55-1 to go back to back as the Hart Trophy winner. As far as the CFL, we made all our picks and went through these on CFL 110. That's up right now. You can go check it out. Bombers 10-1 to win the Grey Cup. Hamilton's 13.5-point favorites against Ottawa on Friday night. Calgary 5.5-point road favorites in Edmonton. Bombers 5.5-point home favorites Saturday against Montreal. And Saskatchewan was 8-point underdogs earlier. It's now 7. BC favored on the road. That tells me they're expecting Saskatchewan not to play very many of their starters. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it's in fact BC that rests starters, depending on what happens with the Calgary-Edmonton game. Weird week in the CFL coming up. Again, CFL 110 available right now over at the WST channel. And of course, all the odds are up for the week in the National Football League. Tomorrow's game in LA, Vikings, Chargers, Minnesota, a 3-point underdog at plus 100, actually. What if you go to 3.5? Minus 119 on 3.5 for the Vikings. Well, maybe be considering that. Always like backing the Vikes, and I always like fading the other teams in the AFC West. But tonight, coolbet.com, WST Poker Series, 8 o'clock p.m. I hope you all will join us. It should be a lot of fun, Remo. And again, the goal is obviously to win, but on the way, prevent Jeff Hamilton from another victory celebration on WST.
I don't want to have Jeff here on Friday bragging that he won again.
Segment canceled if he wins.
Even if Jeff gets to the final table and finishes in the money, that is a win for him. So big bounty on Jeff. Please knock him out. What is his username? Shortside Snipe?
Yeah, the Shortside Snipe.
Yeah.
That's who you're looking for tonight when it all gets
shark.
going.
That's his avatar in that. It's a shark, isn't it?
Well, he was pretty shark-esque.
I'm the guy with the hat in that one. So, well, I'm the only dummy on the internet, Huss, who uses my real name on there, M. Remis. Everyone's got some fake name on there, including the guy
I had a ridiculous fake name early on, and I had to get it changed to mine because, well, when we were doing these things, you want people to kind of, know who we are. We're out there. We got the bounties on our heads, so you guys can all come for us tonight, 8 p.m. coming up. I should mention the World Series. And Jays right now, plus 186 underdogs. Dodgers, minus 222. But as Pat told you yesterday, if you want to put a little sprinkle on the Blue Jays to win, go to the exclusives, because Coolbet's posting the best number anywhere on Toronto to win the World Series, boosted from plus 186 to plus 250. But you have to get that in the Coolbet exclusives. They do have some daily exclusives. Super boost today, RJ Barrett to score 15 points. And then some other NBA ones. We were talking with Connor yesterday, Remo, when we got together after work. Sometimes these super boost offers are so good. Sometimes it's a no-brainer just to put a little something on them and just kind of chip away. I was on 2 of them last night. The SGA, 25 points, and OKC to win. That one cash. Crazy, though. He finished with 35. The game did go to OT. 3 minutes left in the first half, he only had 3 points. And I thought, oh, geez, this isn't going to win. Well, he cashed. And then the other one was Luka Doncic for 25 or more points. I think he ended up in the 40s. So we'll take advantage of that one. And I think I will just blindly go with RJ Barrett on the plus 100 tonight for the Coolbet Raptor Daily exclusive. Fun show today. Great to have Connor on. John Shannon, always great. Taylor Allen and Thomas Tipple. And then, Remo, we fire it up tomorrow. Busy next few days, as Connor laid out, with 3 games in 4 nights, beginning with the Seattle Kraken tomorrow at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, before we go, I have to give a shout out to Tico and Apollo. He gave us 2 very generous super chats. During John Shannon's segment, he wrote, "Yes, John, F analytics." But little does T. Conapoli know that I used analytics to add up the amounts of his super chats. So thank you very much, Tico Napoli. And Tico Napoli, the biggest Tyrell Bauer supporter out there, he wanted to point out Klapka. Doesn't ring a bell. How about the epic Bauer Klapka center ice tilt? Free #TB2. There's a big support from Tico Napoli. Love seeing him chat. He leaves comments as well after the show was done. And if you're watching us after, feel free to leave a comment, agree or disagree with anything we say. Love reading those. Some great comments.
We're here for it. Yeah, Tico Napoli, definitely. I mean, for our 5th anniversary, we may have to do some sort of a first induction class into the WST Chat Hall of Fame. Tico Napoli would definitely be one of the top nominees. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I mean, he's kind of super chatted his way in there, Huss.
I like the takes too. I mean, I appreciate the super chats and the support. Listen, that is greatly appreciated, not necessary, but he's always got some fun takes. And listen, he backs it up. He's been the TB2 guy, not TB12. Tyrell Bauer, too, for the Moose ever since he showed up. And listen, there's a lot of people that would like to see a little more muscle on the Jets. But we'll dive into tomorrow's game day lineup. We'll get to our lines for Clean Line tomorrow, right out of the morning skate, and set up tomorrow night's tilt between the Jets and the Kraken. JD Bunkus is going to join us from Toronto. We'll set up the World Series. And Ken, who is back, T-Will, if Hammer wins the poker tourney, we all get the #Chiefs flu on Friday. There's no such thing. Well, we won't need it for the rest of the year.
The Chiefs, you're not here. You don't get the Chiefs flu jokes. It's when a couple of times the Chiefs have lost and
I know it was
not
the Tuesday
been
after Jacksonville. You probably poured gas on that fire, but that was pre-planned well in advance. Some important WST business needed to take care of, and that had nothing to do. And by the way, just speaking of the Chiefs and the cool bet odds, I believe I did remind many of you about 3 weeks ago on this program, while everyone was freaking out about the Chiefs, you could get them at 10-1 to win the Super Bowl, and Mahomes at plus 650 for MVP. I will remind you all that right now the Chiefs are the favorite to win the Super Bowl at 5-1, and Mahomes is plus 125 to win the MVP.
Wow.
So while sometimes it might sound like I'm just blowing smoke up my own favorite team, the numbers don't lie, and they are the favorite to win. He's the favorite to win right now. And as they say, if you can get something at 10-1 as opposed to 5-1, you'll do that every single day. So
I will say, I kind of made fun of you for having the Chiefs flu, but if anyone who watches the show knows that I was cheering for Seattle in the ALCS, and I did not want to show up. I got it. I understood what you were feeling, Huss.
Listen, and there is no Chiefs flu because
well, you had stuff already planned. It was a coincidence.
Yes, no, but people remember the final episode, the final thing I ever said on TSN 1290 on February 7th of 2021 was finishing up the show the day after the Chiefs got steamrolled by frickin' Tom Brady of all people in the Buccaneers. I ate it for the full 3 hours and then said, if you recall, Remis, you know what? Many people would have taken the day off. Many a lesser man would have not been here, but I've taken my medicine. I will move on. The Chiefs will move on. We will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the afternoon ride. That was the last thing I ever said after 10 years of being on TSN 1290. So I was there. I owned it. That Jacksonville blip a couple of weeks ago was nothing. Chiefs are rolling right now. They've got Monday Night Football against the Commanders. And unfortunately, it has been announced that Jaden Daniels will not play. So you're going to have Mahomes and Mariota as the Monday night matchup from Arrowhead Stadium. But that's going to do it for us. We got to get the pod up. CFL 110's available if you want some more Bomber talk and rest of the league. That's up right now over on the YouTube channel. And join us tonight, 8 p.m., for a fun poker tournament over at coolbet.com. Jake and Pato hope will be in there. Myself, Remis, I think Connor is stepping up tonight. So make sure to join us. It should be a lot of fun. And again, bounties on myself, Remis, and public enemy number 1, Jeff Hamilton. Thanks again to John Shannon, Taylor Allen, Thomas Tipple, and Connor Rabchak. Thanks to all of our sponsors, and thanks to you, gang, for hanging out with us today. We'll be back tomorrow with the game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk, live at 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you on the poker game tonight.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.